Chapter 823. Lu Wanshi and Qian Songbao's dishes both got full marks. It was hard to tell who was better, so the organizers decided to add another round. The other 8 contestants were disqualified. They didn't even go to evaluate their dishes. Actually, it didn't matter whether they were evaluated or not. In the eyes of these culinary geniuses, as long as they didn't get first place, the second and third places were meaningless. Sigh. They shook their heads and walked off the stage. They turned to look at Lu Wanshi and Qian Songbao. There was despair and helplessness in their eyes. Their culinary skills might not be bad, but they ended up meeting 2 monsters. The organizers' staff removed the 8 stoves. Since they were going to make a big pot of rice, the stoves were modified. 2 big pots were placed on top. There were at least 100,000 martial artists who came to watch the competition. Even if each person ate a mouthful, it would take a lot. Therefore, after a short discussion with the other organizers, they decided to choose 5,000 people to try the food. Most of these people came from the imperial city. They were either the upper echelons of their families or famous wandering cultivators. More importantly, it had nothing to do with the 2 contestants. Done. Jun Changshao leaned back in his chair with a smile on his face. He took the initiative to speak, not to steal the show, but for Lu Wanshi to win the championship. In terms of culinary skills, Qian Songbao wasn't weak. If this competition continued, there would be no meaning. Therefore, Jun Changshao wanted to make a big pot of rice to let the public decide who the champion would be. The audience was very supportive. Why should the delicious food be decided by the 10 of them, and not by everyone else? It's a trap, the system said. Lu Wanshi had been making big pot of rice in the sect of all times for many years. She was absolutely proficient in this aspect. The host was shameless to let the 2 compete like this. What was even more shameless was, he secretly sent a message to City Lord Han to force the organizers to accept his suggestion. In order to let his disciple win, he was really unscrupulous. Patriarch. Lu Wanshi sent a message, this isn't good. She could see that the patriarch was intentionally letting her have the advantage to win the competition. However, this was a bit unfair. Girl. Jun Changshao said. Food is the most important thing for the people. This person represents the people, and not a small portion of people. Therefore, the true value of food is to share it with the people. The last 4 words were so righteous that even he himself was moved. Lu Wanshi was silent. Jun Changshao continued to enlighten him. A true master chef's dish can only be considered a success if it is recognized by the public. A few people can't represent everyone. The system said. You really know how to bullshit. I understand. Lu Wanshi's gaze became firm. It was undeniable that Jun Changshao had used a trick to give his disciples the greatest advantage. However, what he said just now was not reasonable. Food was the most important thing to the people. And whether the food was delicious or not was up to the people to decide. A big pot of vegetables? Qian Songbao stroked his chin and said, it seems very interesting. He had learned a lot of skills from the culinary god, but he hadn't cooked many times. Now that he had to cook for 5,000 people, it was undoubtedly very challenging. The rules of the tiebreaker are as follows. Contestants are free to do as they please. Huang Jinzan announced loudly. Make food for 5,000 people in 4 hours. After public evaluation, the one with the highest total will be the champion of this year's competition. Competition. Now let's begin. Shua. Shua. Lu Wanshi walked to the stove on the right first. There were many ingredients placed nearby. After all, she had to make food for 5,000 people. Qian Songbao also walked up. After seeing the huge amount of ingredients, he broke down and said, so many. He swore that this was the first time he had seen so many ingredients since he started learning how to cook. From another point of view, Qian Songbao was just making stir-fry. Suddenly asking him to cook with a big pot of vegetables. Although it was challenging, it was also very difficult. Lu Wanshi said, if you feel that you can't do it, we can change the competition method. Although the patriarch was right about food being the most important thing to the people, she really didn't want to use her advantage to bully the other party. However, Lu Wanshi had neglected a very important issue. No man, even if he was only 12 or 13 years old, was allowed to be questioned. No. I can do it, Qian Songbao said seriously. All right. Lu Wancher didn't say anything else. She waved her hand and took out a bag of flour. She poured it all on the table and began to stir with water. Noodles. Jun Changxiao was stunned. This little girl's strength in cooking with a big pot of vegetables was undoubtedly fried rice. Noodles were still very rare. Shwa. Shwa. Lu Wancher stood in front of the chopping board. Her small hands swayed left and right, stirring evenly. The whole process could be described as smooth as flowing water. Qian Songbao looked sideways, and admiration rose in his heart. You can ask him to cook, but he definitely can't make noodles like this. A moment later, when the dough came out, Lu Wancher grabbed the left and right ends of the dough and slammed it on the chopping board. She then began to pull it repeatedly. Jun Changxiao suddenly realized, ramen. As one of the Chinese delicacies, ramen had a very wide popularity. The famous ones were Lanzhou ramen, Hunan ramen and Dragon Whisker ramen. Japanese ramen was also passed down from China. Ramen was affordable and had a unique flavor. Lu Wancher's choice to make this one was undoubtedly very suitable for the public to judge. Pa. Pa. Under repeated pulling, the dough gradually separated. Sometimes it was like a silver snake dancing wildly. After it was stretched, it was like a stormy sea under the shaking. When Lu Wancher finished the last buckle, she placed one end of the noodles on the table and pulled the other end over her head. Her fingers kept shaking, and the silky noodles suddenly poured down like a waterfall. This scene was transmitted to the falling star continent through the virtual screen. It immediately brought a strong visual impact to the audience. Amazing! Qian Songbao, who was closest to her, was stunned. Lu Wancher's repeated movements continued until strands of noodle appeared. She was simply like a fairy dancing gracefully. It could be said to be extremely beautiful, and would cause others to slap the table in praise. Lin Yao, who was extremely excellent in knife skills, said with admiration, I'm not as good as her. He was able to slash more than 100 times in an instant, and turn the ingredients into fine threads, only because of his spiritual energy. On the other hand, the girl in the arena had relied on her hands and exquisite finger skills. It was impossible for her to do that without going through a lot of practice. At that moment, the eliminated contestants were all convinced by Lu Wancher's craftsmanship. Jun Changxiao said in surprise, I didn't expect Dudu to have such a unique skill. There were ramen tutorials in the Chinese cookbook, but no one personally demonstrated it. Yet she could figure it out by herself and make it to such an extreme. Her culinary skills were really unparalleled. Suddenly Jun Changxiao frowned. After the girl pulled the noodles, she began to cut the vegetables and put a lot of supplementary materials. He wondered, is this ramen? Shwa. Shwa. Lu Wancher put a few beef bones in a big pot. After adding all kinds of seasonings, she used the stove to heat up the soup. Because of the time, it only took half an hour. Then, she cut the noodles into pieces and put them in batches. After boiling for a while, she took them out and put them in clear water to cool. This is, Jun Changxiao suddenly realized. She's going to make fried noodles. As expected, she cleaned the pot and poured oil into it. After the pot was hot, she added the prepared supplementary materials and noodles, and skillfully stir-fried them with a big spoon. If she wanted to make food for 5,000 people, even if it was just one mouthful per person, it would still require a lot of food. However, when Lu Wancher was busy, it gave people a feeling of ease. There were tens of thousands of people in the sect. She prepared 3 meals a day, so it was natural for her to make a big pot of rice. Qian Songbao, who was standing at the side, was dumbfounded. It was not impossible for him to stir-fry noodles, but it was impossible for him to stir-fry so much at once. After all, without long-term experience, it was difficult to reach Lu Wancher's level. No, Qian Songbao said. I have to work hard. Shwa. He retracted his gaze and adjusted his state of mind. Then, he took out more than 10 pounds of high-quality beef and began to cut it with a kitchen knife, preparing to make a big pot of flavored beef brisket. However, all kinds of materials were prepared, and he began to stir-fry. As the pot was too big, and there were too many ingredients, he was a little flustered. The culinary god's disciple is a little weak. This is normal. After all, in terms of identity, this person is considered delicate. It's okay to make a small stir-fry on normal days. But to suddenly make a big pot of rice, he definitely can't control it accurately. Therefore, such a person is destined to be a high-end chef. Those who can afford to eat his dishes are also rich people. As for the disciples of the sect of all times, they are more suitable for people like us. Regardless of whether the food was good or bad, the audience was more inclined towards Lu Wanshi. After all, there were not many rich people in the world. Most of them were ordinary people. To make the food fancy and impeccable, they were destined to not be qualified to taste it. It was better to spend a few coins and eat a bowl of clear soup noodles at a stall. Shua, shua. Qian Songbao tried his best to stir-fry, but because there were too many ingredients, it was difficult to finish them all. Beads of sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. This was in stark contrast to the calm Lu Wanshi beside him. The 10 judges were whispering to each other. If it was just from stir-frying alone, they were also inclined towards Lu Wanshi. After all, it was really commendable to do such a large amount of work so easily. However, the final champion would be decided by the taste. After a while, Lu Wanshi's first pot of stir-fried noodles was done. Then, she placed it in a basin, added oil and stir-fried. After repeating this several times, a few large bowls of stir-fried noodles were done and arranged on the table. From the beginning to the end, she was always calm. After all, she had been preparing 3 meals for her fellow disciples day after day. She had long been used to it. This girl had contributed a lot to the sect. Therefore, after Li Qingyang, she was given the second title of one of the 24 meritorious officials of the Lingyam Pavilion by Jun Changshao. She received the kitchen seal and had the kitchen god fire. The golden stir-fried noodles were placed on the table, looking dazzling under the sun. The audience's appetite was greatly stimulated. They could not wait to rush over and try it. After waiting for a while, Qian Songbao finally finished his work. He stir-fried a large bowl of beef brisket. However, he was so tired that he was sweating profusely. It was as if he was going to collapse at any time. Let's invite the 5,000 judges to enter in order. After tasting the food, we will give a score. Huang Jinzan shouted loudly. Shua! Shua! Before the judges entered the arena in order, they first began to taste Qian Songbao's beef brisket. After eating it, their expressions were blank. All of them were infatuated and exclaimed in unison, "It's really too delicious." 10 points. 10 points. Many martial artists with noble statuses from large clans gave the highest score, and were recorded by the staff. 8 points. Suddenly a discordant voice was heard. The one who gave 8 points was actually the old man with the demeanor of an immortal. He shook his head and said, "This taste is still a bit lacking compared to the beef brisket just now." Not bad. The other 9 judges nodded. They also gave 8 to 9 points. No one gave 10 points. Qian Songbao smiled bitterly. If it was just a small portion of beef brisket, he could ensure the quality and quantity. But to make such a big pot, it was already very good that he did not fail. Naturally, he could not grasp the taste perfectly. After the final calculation, Qian Songbao's big pot of beef brisket had a total of 50,084 points. Excluding the 10 judges who were picky with their mouths, the 5,000 judges all gave 10 points. This also meant that even if it was his first time making a big pot dish, this food god's disciple had real skills. The 5,000 judges all gave full marks. This is really too awesome. The martial artists from various cities were all amazed. After eating the beef brisket, everyone gathered in front of a few big pots of golden fried noodles. Then they took a plate and scooped it up. Lu Wanshi's dish was huge in quantity. Therefore, many people subconsciously scooped more. It was not like the beef brisket, where they could only judge a small portion. Oh my God! This is even better. Many judges ate the fried noodles. Their expressions immediately became rich. Especially the noodles, which were smooth and refreshing. It felt good to bite it in the mouth. The 10 judges also showed satisfied expressions after tasting it. Then, they tried the fried noodles in other pots. In the end, they praised. The rice fried in batches can still taste the same. It's really commendable. Full marks. Full marks. The public and professional judges all gave marks. The final total was 50 out of 100 points. After seeing the final score, Jun Changxiao sat down and put the extinguished cigar back in his mouth. He lit it up and took a puff. I said it before. Absolutely crushing. There's no suspense. The system collapsed. You've already stepped on it. Don't you find it dirty to pick up a cigarette butt? I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm proud. Actually, at the start, I considered dumplings, egg fried rice, and cross the bridge rice noodles. But my Chinese cuisine has been passed down for a long time. It is broad and profound. There are too many things that can be written. Even if it's just a small place eating sesame seed cake, it's not something a universe country can compare to. Chapter 824. Overtime ended. Lu Wanshi defeated Qian Songbao with full marks. In fact, the result was already decided after Jun Changxiao's trick. After all, no one was better than Southwest Yangzhou. Of course, Qian Songbao's ability could not be denied. After all, the score difference was not big, and he did not lose to the public. He lost to the professional judges who were even more picky. The winner of the 50th God of Cookery competition, Huang Jinzan, announced loudly, Lu Wanshi. Junior sister is mighty. Senior sister is mighty. The disciples of the sect of all times roared loudly. Miss Lu, congratulations. Qian Songbao walked over to congratulate her. In fact, when he saw the process of making fried noodles, he knew that he would lose without a doubt, so he could still accept it. Lu Wanshi smiled and said, You're very good too. He got full marks because he had to prepare 3 meals for his fellow disciples every day. He had never done it before. To be recognized by 5,000 people, he definitely had the ability. This point, Jun Changxiao could not deny it either. In terms of cooking skills, Qian Songbao was not inferior to Lu Wanshi. Whoever won the God of Cookery competition deserved the title. However, in order to complete the epic mission and obtain a higher reward, he could only use tricks. Can I try it? Qian Songbao looked at the remaining fried noodles, his eyes shining. He was a chef and a foodie. Now that the competition was over, he could shed his chef identity and become a real foodie. Huang Jinzan said, Sure. The little guy walked to the dining table, picked up the fried noodles with his chopsticks, and put it into his mouth. As he chewed, he remembered the scene of him being saved and eating fried rice, and tears fell unconsciously. Dad. Qian Songbao put down his chopsticks and choked. I don't want to go home and inherit the family fortune. When he came, Qian Budwa made a promise with his son. If he could not win the God of Cookery competition, he would obediently come back and listen to the arrangements. Qian Songbao yearned for an unrestrained life and did not want to be imprisoned in a cage, following the path his father paved. However, if he could not win the God of Cookery competition, he was destined to listen to the arrangements, go home and inherit the family fortune, obediently being a rich second generation. How many people dreamed of it, and he actually despised it. Lu Wanshi smiled. You can join the sect of all times. I'll teach you how to make fried rice and fried noodles. Seeing that the little girl had taken the initiative to recruit talents for the sect, Jun Changxiao's face was filled with a gratified smile. Qian Songbao fell into a struggle. Clearly, he was already tempted. After a moment of consideration, he said with difficulty, I'm a very lazy person. I don't like to cook in a big pot. Can I go over and eat alone? Pure eating? Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes. My sect of all times doesn't raise idlers, nor do we raise foodies. This. Lu Wanshi looked at Jun Changxiao and said, I think the patriarch should be happy. Happy my ass. Although Jun Changxiao was on the verge of a mental breakdown, after thinking about it, this guy was a rich second generation after all. It wouldn't be a bad idea to recruit him. What's more, didn't Peppa the wild boar, who was as lazy as she was, become hardworking under his training? Jun Changxiao said telepathically, Little girl, tell him that I'll allow him to join the sect of all times as an exception. However, the entry fee may be a little expensive. Pure eating was fine, but he had to pay. Oh, Lu Wanshi relayed the patriarch's words. Qian Songbao smiled and said, "As long as I can eat Miss Lu's cooking every day, the entry fee is not a problem." Seeing that he was so straightforward, Jun Changshao decided and said, "I'll definitely take this disciple." Under everyone's gaze, the champion of the 50th God of Cookery tournament, Lu Wanshi raised her big ear-shaped cup. Ha ha ha. Yi Tianxing, who was in the certification hall of the heavenly mandate imperial city, laughed out loud. The God of Cookery tournament had nothing to do with martial arts. However, if a disciple of the Sect of all times won the championship, he could naturally show off in front of everyone. During this period, the Sect of all times had done a lot of big things. He could choose any one of them to show off. So during the meeting at the certification hall, which one should he choose? Sigh. It was so difficult to choose. Elder Zhou and Elder Zhen, who were standing behind him, breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this was the God of Cookery tournament. If it were a martial arts competition, the Sect of all times would have won the championship, and the hall master would probably be paralyzed again. Ding! The host's disciple, Lu Wanshi, won the God of Cookery tournament and met the requirements. The epic quest is completed with a completion rate of 200%. The host receives 40,000 contribution points. Ding! Contribution points, 644-805-0000. Ding! Contribution points overflow. The moment Lu Wanshi raised the cup, Jun Changshao heard a pleasant notification sound in his ears. His soul seemed to float beyond the clouds. Ding! Detected that the host has completed the 7th epic quest. The reward for the 8th epic quest will be issued together with the completion of the 7th epic quest. When he floated to the highest point in the sky, he was suddenly hit by a stick, and his soul was directly knocked back into his body. Jun Changshao broke down in his heart and said, "This restriction is really fucked up." He had completed the quest, but because of another quest's restriction, he could not receive the reward. It was indeed very sad. Even more sad was that Shur 7's quest had met the requirements, but the time limit of the quest could only enter the settlement period after a year. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed and said, "The road ahead is long. I will search from top to bottom." After the award ceremony, the God of Cookery tournament officially ended. All the martial artists left the venue, but the martial artists who were lucky enough to be the judges were still reminiscing about the fried noodles they had just eaten. To make noodles to such an extent, it is really amazing. If I can eat that girl's fried noodles every day, it will definitely be the happiest thing in the world. I have decided. I am going to register at the Sect of all times. Many martial artists could not resist the temptation of delicious food, and had the intention to register at the Azure Sun County. This was something that Jun Changshao did not expect. In his calculations, most of the people who came to register were because of the advertising effect. Jun Patriarch, are you in a hurry to leave after winning the championship? At the entrance of the City Lord Mansion, City Lord Han personally sent him off. Jun Changshao said, "The Sect is busy. Jun has to hurry back." "All right." City Lord Han cupped his hands and said, "We will meet again if fate wills it." Jun Changshao smiled and said, "As long as City Lord Han prepares according to Jun's ideas, you will definitely make a lot of money in the next Dragon Tiger competition." City Lord Han said righteously, "Money is just a worldly possession. I have already accepted it." Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. "When you received the spirit stones, you were smiling more happily than me. Only a fool would believe that." "Goodbye. Goodbye." Jun Changshao brought Lu Wanshi, the Purple King, and Yao Minjing out of the imperial city. Although one of them was a Fey king, and the other had a connate demonic body, nothing happened. They were just there to cheer. Qian Songbao did not follow them to southwest Yangzhou. Instead, he went home first to discuss with his father. He wanted to eat Lu Wanshi's food every day, but Jun Changshao thought that the dining hall could set up another deputy hall master. This kid was qualified enough. Walking out of the imperial city, Lin Yao leaned against a tree on the road ahead. He had a saber at his waist. Although his face was young, it gave off a sense of vicissitudes. "Jun Patriarch." Lin Yao turned around and cupped his hands. "I, Lin Yao, am not a sect. I am a wandering cultivator. I want to join your sect. There were not many people who directly asked to join the sect. Can you endure hardships? Yes. Can you endure hardships? Yes. Can you shed your blood for the sect? Yes. Facing Jun Changxiao's series of questions, Lin Yao answered quickly and straightforwardly. His eyes were filled with sincerity. He clearly wanted to join the sect of all times and become a member. Follow me back to the sect of all times, Jun Changxiao said. Lin Yao cupped his hands. Thank you, Patriarch. Therefore, there was one more person in the group returning to the sect. On the way, Jun Changxiao calculated. This one can be in charge of cutting vegetables with Ma Yongning. Chapter 825. Although the culinary god competition had ended, the enlightened city Lord Han did not cancel the projection array. He continued to rely on the remaining recordings to bombard the audience. He even took on the advertisement alone and participated in the design. Although the playback effect was awkward, at least it had some effect. What proved that City Lord Han was enlightened was that he recorded the finals of the culinary god competition and played it repeatedly during the advertisement time. For some reason, the warriors who did not witness the competition could only watch the advertisement. City Lord Han was a person who treated money like dirt. His only hobby was spirit stones. Of course, the natural phenomenon of the culinary god competition and the only female contestant winning the championship were destined to become a hot topic in the falling star continent. In the past, no one cared about the sect of all times. Now everyone was talking about it. This was the best proof of the increase in reputation. With the projection array, the entire continent could be said to have reached the point where everyone in the world did not know about him. When the crying children at night heard their parents say that Jun Patriarch was here, they would immediately pull their little faces and curl up in their blankets, not daring to make a sound. Was it that exaggerated? Yes. They had been on the road for half a day. Jun Changxiao led everyone into a city and chose to rest. Coincidentally, they met a crying child pestering his mother to buy candied haws. Little guy. Here. Jun Changxiao bent down and handed the candied haws over. He squinted his eyes, and his mouth formed a U shape, looking like a big brother next door. He dared to bombard the extreme cold palace for his disciple, and he dared to go against a first-rate and second-rate sect for a mineral vein. It was surprising that such a ruthless person had such a friendly expression. However, when the child saw his face, he hurriedly shrank behind his mother and trembled. Crack! The sound of a heart breaking came from inside his body. Jun Changxiao clutched his chest and said in pain, "Am I very scary?" "Scary," Lu Wanshi and Yao Minjing said in unison. Sigh. Jun Changxiao took a bite of the candied haws and said, "In that case, from today onwards, I will be the great demon king." After saying that, he put the hood of his windbreaker on his head and put on a skull mask. He said eerily, "Little guy, are you afraid of me?" Ha ha ha. The trembling child was suddenly amused by him and laughed through his tears. Under the setting sun, Jun Changxiao walked with his shoulders slumped, looking rather desolate. The path to becoming a great demon king was destined to be difficult. In the dead of night, Jun Changxiao lay in the guest room of the inn and pulled open the advanced shopping center. The contribution points from completing the epic quest were overflowing, so they had to be eliminated within 24 hours. Ding! Host has spent 10,000 contribution points and obtained Dragon Elephant Prajnapalm X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 544-8050000. Jun Changxiao had long had the urge to buy this kind of martial technique that condensed the strength of the dragon elephant. It was only until today that he overflowed with a lot of contribution points that he truly took action. To put it bluntly, or was it because the external pressure was not great enough that he was stingy and unwilling to buy it? If a martial emperor-level enemy came and made a fuss about destroying the sect of all times, the contribution points would be spent very quickly. As for the remaining 4,480 points, Jun Changxiao used them on the sect's infrastructure and the martial aptitude liquid. In fact, as the upper limit of the contribution points increased, In terms of overall expenditure, the investment in the sect's construction was more than personal use. Understood. After all, it was the strongest sect system, not the strongest Gosheng system. Let's try cultivating it. Jun Changshao took out the dragon elephant prajna palm, and then began to flip through it. Immediately, the chants and intricate images appeared in his sea of consciousness. The next day, opening his eyes, he thought to himself, this kind of martial arts seems to be even stronger than the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash. Nonsense. The system said, this is a high-rank shopping center martial skill. I can let disciples cultivate this kind of palm print. Jun Changshao said, the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash was actually not bad, but its flaw was that it was only for men to cultivate. The Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm had no gender restrictions, so anyone could cultivate it. The more Dragon Elephant power one could condense, the stronger it would be. Exploding Fist, Mountain Splitting Palm, and Seal Shield belonged to the first generation of martial arts. Spirit Armor and Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash belonged to the second generation of martial arts. The Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm could be called the third generation of martial arts. As the level of the sect increased, the strength of the disciples would increase, and the martial arts would naturally change. Otherwise, how would they face stronger enemies in the future? Of course, there were also special martial arts that could always adapt to the changes of the times. For example, Self-Slash and 7 Profound Sunglow Break. The former's consumption was extremely low, and its power would increase as one's strength increased. It was very suitable for long-term cultivation. The latter was incomplete, but its potential was still very high. A few days later, Jun Changshao comprehended the first two parts of the Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm, stopped in the wilderness, and stood proudly with his hands behind his back. Lu Wanshi and Yao Minjing sat on a rock, each of them eating an apple. What is this brat doing? The Purple King muttered. Shua! Jun Changshao suddenly opened his eyes, opened his right hand, and waved it in the air. Spirit energy gathered in his palm, forming a strong wind, and then smashed towards the huge rock in front of him. Hoo-hoo! The wind suddenly blew and dust flew. The Purple King opened his eyes wide, because when Jun Changshao made his move, two illusions appeared in front of him. From the shape, they seemed to be dragon elephant beasts. Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm. Boom! The power of the dragon elephant gathered in his palm, and smashed fiercely on the huge rock. The whole ground suddenly shook. Everything quieted down. In front of Jun Changshao's area, the huge rock had disappeared, and a fan-shaped crater was blasted on the ground, and the surrounding ground had countless cracks. Wow! Lu Wanshi and Yao Minjing opened their small mouths, perfectly playing the role of surprised passers-by. The Purple King was shocked. Could this be a martial art from the upper realm? Shua! Jun Changshao retracted his palm, and thought to himself, gathering the power of one dragon elephant. The explosive power is not bad. If I gather 10 or 100 dragon elephant powers, wouldn't it be even more terrifying? The system said. That depends on whether the host has the ability to condense it. Jun Changshao was speechless. Although he gathered the power of one dragon elephant, it was still a beginner. In terms of overall power, it was still slightly inferior to the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash. As long as he gathered more dragon elephant powers, the power would be reflected. The Purple King was still in shock. The martial art that Jun Changshao used just now, although the momentum was weak, judging from the phenomenon, it was definitely not ordinary. He even had the illusion that he was looking at a top powerhouse from the upper realm, using some magical powers. The mortal world definitely doesn't have this kind of martial art. It must be from the upper realm. This guy is really not simple. When he said that he wanted to join hands with me to do something big, it might not be just casual talk. The Purple King's imagination ran wild. At this point, the imaginary trio was officially confirmed and officially debuted. The members were Yi Xingchen, He Wudi, and the Purple King. Comprehend. On the way back to the sect, Jun Changshao continued to study this profound palm technique. However, after a few days, he still stopped at one dragon elephant power, and could not comprehend the second one no matter what. The dragon elephant Prajnapam inherited the usual style of the Shang city's martial arts, easy to learn but hard to master. After the initial contact and understanding, he could gather a dragon elephant power. If he wanted to evolve more, he would have to rely on talent and time. The kind of scene where the sky was full of dragon elephants, and people only cared about counting and forgot about the battle, was ultimately just a beautiful dream. Chapter 826. Patriarch is back. Junior sister Lu is back. In the sect of all times, Li Fei shouted at the top of his voice. The disciples who were cultivating rushed out to welcome her warmly. Qingyang. As soon as he sat down in the main hall, Jun Changshao ordered. This is the new disciple. Go and make arrangements for him. Yes. Li Qingyang took Lin Yao to the inner courtyard. Elder Jiang. Jun Changshao said. Did anything happen while I was away? Yes. Jiang Yi said. Du Nan, who is in charge of cleaning the inner courtyard, found a modified multi-purpose vacuum cleaner that can suck some dirty things. Oh. Jun Changshao's eyes were filled with surprise. This was a daily necklace that he bought when he respawned mid-level beast pills. When he went to the Imperial City, he gave it to Du Nan to clean the fallen leaves and dust in the martial arts practice field. Call him here. Yes. Not long after, Du Nan walked into the main hall. This guy's previously elegant hair had been shaved off. He was now a monk. It was not intentional. It was mainly because he was kicked out when he came to the sect to catch evil cultivators. It would take time for his head to grow back, so he simply shaved it off. Don't talk about it. After shaving his head, Du Nan's understanding of Buddhism had increased a lot. He was a typical bald man, but he also became stronger. Jun Changshao asked, the vacuum cleaner can suck dirty things? Yes, Patriarch. Du Nan said. After my observation and research, this thing can not only absorb dust and debris, but also evil energy. It was a coincidence. One day, he took the vacuum cleaner to clean the martial arts practice field in the inner courtyard. Mo Shang happened to be cultivating and releasing evil energy. As a result, the energy was forcibly absorbed. Jun Changshao said, call him here to demonstrate. Not long after, Mo Shang walked over. However, his head was surprisingly shiny. Jun Changshao said in surprise, have you also seen through the mortal world and become a monk? Patriarch. Du Nan said. Senior brother Mo's hair was sucked away by the vacuum cleaner. Mentioning this matter, Mo Shang's tears were about to fall. She had gone to the inner yard to cultivate early in the morning, but as soon as she released her demonic aura, her energy was sucked away uncontrollably. Unable to stabilize her body, she fell straight to the sucking mouth, and her head was sucked into it. Fortunately, Du Nan turned it off in time. Otherwise, his scalp would have been sucked in. After hearing this, Jun Changshao got up and walked down. He patted Mo Shang's shoulder and said, you've suffered. Pahaha. Ha 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 ha, Patriarch. In the practice field, Mo Shang broke down and said, better not take the test. Cut the crap. Jun Changshao held the magically modified vacuum cleaner and said, hurry up and release your evil energy. I'll see how you suck it away. All right. Mo Shang helplessly released the evil qi. Pa! Jun Changshao started up the vacuum cleaner, and a strong suction force suddenly burst out. The flat suction nozzle was placed on the ground, and the dust and stones were immediately sucked in. Right at this moment, a strange scene occurred. The demonic aura that had gathered outside Mo Shang's body suddenly flew over uncontrollably. It can really absorb the demonic aura? Jun Changshao said in surprise. Mo Shang was still on tenterhooks. He forced himself to stabilize his body and not send his head to the door automatically. However, he did not go over. The flat suction nozzle flew over by itself, and it was about to come into close contact with his head. Pa! Jun Changshao hurriedly closed it. The suction force suddenly dissipated, and Mo Shang was so shocked that he collapsed on the ground. Although the suction force of the flat suction nozzle was not terrifying, when it came into contact with his body, he could deeply feel that he was about to be sucked in. The absorption of the demonic aura in his body was a small matter, but losing his scalp was a big matter. It's indeed magical. Jun Changshao's eyes flickered with surprise. This kind of daily necklace that he bought casually could actually absorb the demonic aura. It was really beyond his imagination. Qingyang, Jun Changshao said, release your psionic power. He also wanted to see if this thing had the ability to absorb the demonic aura of a normal martial cultivator. The result was very disappointing, because after Li Qingyang released his psionic power, he was not affected by the suction force. Even when the flat suction nozzle was placed on his face, there was only a slight suction force, and it could not tear away his skin and flesh. He called Yao Minjing over. After testing, the conclusion was that it could absorb the demonic aura that she released. Understood, Jun Changshao said. The magic-modified multi-purpose vacuum cleaner has no effect on normal martial cultivators. It only has an effect on evil and demonic cultivators. By the way, he held his chin and said, if it's used to deal with the evil sects, wouldn't it be very effective? This was effective. Not only could it be absorbed, it could also absorb those of a higher realm. Old Ding, Jun Changshao said, come and release the demonic aura. After all, Mo Shang was only a martial king-level evil cultivator. He needed to test a Wu Sheng like the 5 ultimate evil saint. Ding Xingwang said proudly. Patriarch, although this vacuum cleaner is a little strange, I'm afraid it won't be able to absorb my demonic aura. In the era where martial emperors did not appear, as an evil cultivator Wu Sheng, he had the capital to look down on all heroes. Try it. All right then. Ding Xingwang stood in place, and a strong demonic aura suddenly erupted from his body. Compared to him, Mo Shang, who was half an evil cultivator, was simply an ant at the foot of a mountain. The corner of Du Nan's mouth twitched slightly. It turned out that this elder Ding was not only an evil cultivator, but also very terrifying. Where did he get the courage to sneak into the sect of all times? Pa! Jun Changshao turned on the vacuum cleaner, and the suction force suddenly burst out. Although he felt the demonic aura, and wanted to suck it over, he was still unable to do so. Patriarch, Ding Xingwang said, it's useless to me. Jun Changshao raised his hand, placed it in front of the button on the handle, and said, switch to second gear. The magic-modified multi-purpose vacuum cleaner had a fan-like speed control function, which was divided into first, second, and third gears. Du Nan used the first gear because it was enough to suck in leaves and dust. Pa! The second gear was activated. Whoosh! In an instant, the flat suction mouth produced a strong suction force. Even if it kept a sufficient distance from the ground, the dust and leaves were immediately sucked in. Ding Xingwang's face changed slightly. At this moment, he had already felt that the demonic aura was being pulled by some kind of force, but it was still within a controllable range. Still not enough. Pa! The third gear was activated. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a stronger suction force was raised. Du Nan, Mo Shang, and the others could clearly see that the dust and leaves within more than 10 feet around Patriarch were all sucked in an instant. Ding Xingwang's face suddenly became solemn. The third gear's suction force burst out, and the demonic aura that gathered around him could not be suppressed at all. It was extending toward the flat suction mouth. Although he had been trying to restrain himself, he could only temporarily delay the flying time. The current scene was the strong suction force burst out, pulling the demonic aura forcefully, and the two were getting closer and closer. How is it? Jun Changshao asked. Ding Xingwang's face was ugly as he said, I can still withstand it. Although he said so, he knew that if he did not quickly keep a sufficient distance, the demonic aura he released would definitely be sucked in. The third gear mode could make Wu Sheng so embarrassed. It could be seen how terrifying the suction force was. Of course, it was just that Ding Xingwang allowed the vacuum cleaner to suck in this way. If it were an enemy, they would have left immediately, and it would be useless at that time. In that case, Jun Changshao said solemnly, we can only activate the enhanced mode. Pa! After that, he pressed the red button. Ding! The host has successfully activated the enhanced mode of the multifunctional vacuum cleaner, consuming 100 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 499,005,0000. Damn it! Jun Changshao collapsed. You're spending so much. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh, at the moment of collapse, the flat suction mouth suddenly burst out with a stronger and more terrifying suction force than before. He almost lost his grip and flew out directly. Ding Xinguang's face changed drastically, and the demonic aura he released immediately gushed out like a flood. He could not control it at all, and even his body could not control it. He staggered with a thump-thump-thump sound, and finally, his head was nailed directly to the flat suction mouth. Not good, Jun Changshao exclaimed and hurriedly turned off the vacuum cleaner. However, although the suction force stopped in an instant, after Ding Xinguang separated from the flat suction mouth, his old and profound gray hair was all gone, and his head was shiny and shiny. Ah, my thick hair. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched, and he comforted him. Old Ding, don't be sad. I will find a way to get you a bottle of Overlord shampoo. After using it, you should be able to grow out your hair in an instant. Chapter 827. The items in the system store were divided into God's modification and Magic's modification. The former had special effects, while the latter had functions. For example, the 8x enhanced mode would consume 5 contribution points to activate, allowing Jun Changshao to have the ability to self-aim, see through things, and eavesdrop. The magically modified vacuum cleaner also had an enhanced mode, which required 100 points to activate. There was a reason why it was expensive. After the enhanced mode was activated, the terrifying suction force caused Ding Xinguang to lose his resistance. Not only was the evil energy absorbed, even his gray hair was affected. Fortunately, the entire process happened in the blink of an eye, and it did not bring any pain to the patient. My hair! My hair! Ding Xinguang squatted on the ground, holding a large pile of gray hair that he took out from the dust collector. His entire person seemed to have aged a few hundred years in an instant. Beside him, Mo Shang raised his sleeve to wipe his tears. He could now deeply understand the pain in Elder Ding's heart, because he was also a victim. Actually, Jun Changshao comforted him. This is just 3,000 strands of worry. Without it, there are no worries. It might not be a bad thing. Ding Xinguang silently took out a shiny razor and said, "Let me help the patriarch push away the 3,000 strands of worry." "No," Jun Changshao said in grief. "As the head of a sect, I am destined to bear many troubles. How can I escape? Not to mention 3,000 strands of worry. Even if it's 9,000 strands of worry, I still have to bear it." Ding Xinguang immediately rolled his eyes. He advised others to do the same thing, but when it came to himself, he immediately changed. Ding! 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 As night fell, Jun Changshao sat in the study room and started to quickly refresh the beginner's shopping mall. It was for nothing else, but to get some products that could help old Ding recover from his wounded heart. After testing during the day, the conclusion was, the magically modified vacuum cleaner was very effective against both evil and demonic cultivators, especially when the enhanced mode was activated. Even Wu Sheng was unable to withstand it. However, there was also a flaw. It could only absorb martial artists who released the evil energy and nearby targets. If the other party did not explode, or if the distance was very far, it would be useless. Moreover, the absorbed evil energy could only be temporarily sealed in the dust collector. Once it was opened, it would automatically return to the body of the absorber. It can be used for self-defense. At least the evil sect experts won't dare to get close. In the wilderness, cold and murderous, dozens of corrupt experts' eyes shone with ominous light. Jun Changshao carried the modified vacuum cleaner on his back, raised the mouth of the vacuum cleaner and shouted, "Come over here." This scene. How carefree sand and unrestrained eagle. However, Jun Changshao retracted his fantasy and frowned. Only I can activate the magically modified product function. Even if I give it to my disciples, it can only be adjusted to the 3rd gear. The system said. Ding Xinguang said before that the 3rd gear mode already made him feel pressured. That's true, Jun Changshao said. In the future, if we have to fight against even more powerful heretical schools, we can purchase a large number of modified vacuum cleaners and let our disciples equip them. They'll be more effective than divine weapons. The falling star continent focused on martial arts. However, if there was a convenient way to deal with the enemy, he would definitely not be stingy in using it. No one stipulated that martial arts must be used, and no one stipulated that firearms and multi-purpose vacuum cleaners could not be used. He Jun Changshao was destined to be a man who led the world astray. Right. A thought flashed through his mind. Can the magically modified vacuum cleaner absorb souls? The system said. The host has a good imagination. Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, evil energy and demonic energy are considered unclean things. The soul race can also be classified as unclean by occupying other people's souls to control their bodies. The system said, if the host wants to confirm his guess, you can enter the soul race world and try it out yourself. Get lost. Jun Changshao said, I'm not that stupid. If he was not sure if it would work on the soul race, he would definitely not go to the soul race's world. Moreover, as far as the current situation was concerned, the enhanced mode could deal with the evil cultivator Wu Sheng. If it did not work on the overlord level, he would definitely be defeated if he went to other people's territory and met such a strong person. After I have enough strength and confidence, I will enter the soul race's world and fight. Jun Changshao said righteously, save the world from fire and water. The system said, if the soul race knows that they have been targeted by the shameless host, they will definitely hide in a corner and tremble. Ding! Jun Changshao refreshed the beginner's shop again, and his eyes lit up. Because among the new products listed, there was a product called Super Hair Growth Agent. The effect was instant hair growth, and the price was only 50 contribution points. I'll buy it. Ding ha ha ha. The next day, Ding Xingwang sat in front of the bronze mirror in his room and looked at the lush hair that had grown overnight. He raised his head and laughed excitedly. Boom! Boom! In a dark world, there were a few burly figures. They had two creatures that looked like horns on their heads, and they were using their bodies to crazily crash into the spatial barrier. This was the other end of the sealed spatial passage. These creatures were the soul race. In their own world, they could condense their bodies, and their defensive strength was not inferior to the beast race. However, when they invaded other planes, they never advocated fighting with real weapons. Instead, they used the unique abilities of their race to gather their soul form and reside in the bodies of creatures. When they matured, they would devour them and obtain dominance. The overall strength of this race might not be very strong. However, once they transformed into soul form and resided in other races, they would borrow the other party's strength to strengthen themselves. 10,000 years ago, in the falling star continent, the 9 martial emperors were occupied, resulting in the War of the Martial Emperors and the collapse of the world. Fighting force with force, the soul race might not be able to defeat the falling star continent. However, the sinister part was that they could control the bodies of others and stab them in the back. In short, this race was insidious and cunning. Even if they could defeat their opponent, they would not fight openly. Damn it! A soul powerhouse repeatedly attacked the barrier, but to no avail. He said angrily. There were clearly signs of loosening. Why is it suddenly harder than before? Could it be that the array masters of the falling star continent have strengthened the seal? The soul powerhouse next to him said. If that's the case, it'll be difficult for us to invade again. The third soul overlord has already awakened and sent an invasion signal. If we don't meet up with him, we'll definitely be punished. They were very anxious and were waiting online. However, regardless of whether they continued or joined forces to attack the barrier, they could not shake it. Moreover, from the frequency species, they could roughly infer that it would be difficult to break it if they did not attack it for 100 years. The lifespan of the soul race was very long. 100 years was just a snap of the fingers. However, the third soul overlord had awakened in the falling star continent and was waiting for them to coordinate with him. They could not afford to delay for even a day. Sigh. A soul powerhouse sighed and said, at this time, we can only hope that the third soul overlord can realize this problem and break the seal from inside the falling star continent. Otherwise, we won't be able to enter in a short time. The entire continent should be grateful to Jun Changshao. If he had not ordered Shangguan Xingyao to reinforce the defensive seal and hold on for hundreds of years, the cliché plot of an alien invasion would have been played out all over the falling star continent. Chapter 828. In a place with verdant hills and clear waters, Dai Lu, who was wearing a black robe, stood there quietly. The grassland green attribute appeared around his body and then spread to the nearby plants, absorbing all the spiritual energy in their bodies. Phew! After a while he opened his eyes. He spat out a mouthful of turbid air and said, "I've broken through to the 6th rank." Brother Greenscarf had worked very hard to become stronger and take revenge. However, compared to Jun Gua, who had the life of a main character, he was a tragedy. "Kid," Sol said unhappily, "it's impossible to break through to the Emperor realm just by absorbing plants and ferocious beasts. It's better to absorb martial artists of the same level as you." Dai Lu shook his head and said, "What's the difference between you and an evil spirit if you kill innocent lives for revenge?" Theoretically speaking, he had a grudge against Jun Changshao, so he could be considered a villain. However, he was definitely not an evil person, so he would definitely not do something heartless. In a world where martial arts are respected, the strong preys on the weak. Sol roared in disappointment. "If you care so much about good and evil, you'll get yourself killed sooner or later." "Don't say any more," Dai Lu said. "I have my own plans." Sol fell silent. He thought that this fool was easy to trick, but he didn't expect him to be so principled. It seemed that it would take him a long time to devour and take him for himself. In the Sect of all times, Jun Changshao sat in the Drizzle Hall and said, "Why are you only a 6th rank martial king?" Li Luochio curled her lips and said, "I have to take care of the Drizzle Hall and the purchasing hall. How can I have time to cultivate?" She broke through to the Martial King realm by relying on Martial King pills. She also broke through to the 6th rank by going to the Life and Death Secret realm. Otherwise, she wouldn't have time to cultivate. She was at most 2nd or 3rd rank now. "You've worked hard," Jun Changshao said. The 24 meritorious officials of the Lingyam Pavilion could only allow their disciples to enter. Otherwise, they would definitely consider letting this woman in. Li Luochio joked, "You came to the Drizzle Hall just to ask about my cultivation level?" "Of course not," Jun Changshao asked. "Did you find anything about the matter I asked you to investigate some time ago?" As soon as they started talking about serious matters, Li Luochio became serious and said, "I've already sent people to investigate. For the time being, there are no abnormalities." Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "Could it be that the old man is fooling me?" Inside the Shifeng fate-ending pagoda, the Array Emperor had once said, "Perhaps it will take a very long time. Perhaps it has already arrived at the Starfall continent, occupied the human body, and is slowly growing." Jun Changshao did not seem to care about saving the world, but he still ordered the Drizzle Hall to find out if there were any supernatural incidents on the continent. The space-time passageway was sealed once more. It would not be a problem to stabilize it for a few hundred years, but he was afraid that the Spiritas would sneak in ahead of time and reside in the human body. Combined with what the Array Emperor said, Jun Changshao roughly deduced, if the Spiritas wanted to become stronger, they might absorb the psionic energy of humans. As long as they didn't destroy the corpses, there should be clues left behind. However, after a careful search by the Drizzle Hall, such a phenomenon did not occur. Thus, he could not help but wonder if he was being a little too cautious. "It's best if there isn't." Jun Changshao leaned back in his chair and said, "This way, the Spiritas won't be able to kill us. We can only wait for ourselves to kill them." "Patriarch." Ding Xingwang walked in. Jun Changshao and Li Luochio's eyes suddenly became dull. Because not only had old Ding's hair recovered, but it was also very long. So long that it coiled around his waist several times. "What exactly did you give me?" Ding Xingwang parted his dense hair, revealing an old face that was about to collapse. "It's growing every day. How can I go out in the future?" "Cut it off." "I cut it 8 times in 2 days, and it's getting longer and longer." The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Other people wait until my hair reaches my waist, but you marry me. Ding Xingwang, on the other hand, waited until my hair coiled around my waist and held scissors every day. The main thing was that he used too much. After a few days of growth, it would return to normal. Patriarch. Dunan smiled and said, "Can you give me a bottle?" Jun Changshao patted his shoulder, looked at his shiny head, and said, "A Buddhist martial cultivator should look like a Buddhist martial cultivator. Come, lower your head. I'll give you a few scars." "Forget it. I'll go clean up the inner court." Dunan instantly disappeared. Patriarch. Elder Wei came to report, "The new batch of medicinal herbs has matured." A smile appeared on Jun Changxiao's face. They could refine more martial emperor pills, and the overall strength of the disciples would increase again. Patriarch. Li Luochio walked in and said, "There's something I have to report to you." "Speak." Jun Changxiao said. Li Luochio said, "The Drizzle Hall sent news that the palace master of Miaohua Palace left the sect and went to the southern desolate state." "Why?" Jun Changxiao asked. Li Luochio said, "Palace master, she was invited to Juda Palace." "A fifth-rate evil sect?" "Yes." Jun Changxiao wondered. Miaohua Palace is considered a righteous sect in Jianghu. Why would Palace master she go to an evil sect? "As far as I know," Li Luochio said, "Shi Jingxian has a senior sister who is very powerful in Miaohua Palace. Later, she lost the competition for the position of Palace master and left the sect with hatred. She joined Judu Palace in the southern desolate state." "So," Jun Changxiao said, "the so-called invitation is actually a hangmen banquet?" "It's possible," Li Luochio said. "In fact, if it was not very important, she would usually choose not to report it. However, Shi Jingxian and the Patriarch had an unclear relationship, so she still reported it after hesitating." "Only Palace master she went alone?" Zhang Sun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue accompanied her. At the mention of Leng Xingyue, Elder Wei, who was sitting at the head of the table, became serious. Jun Changxiao noticed it and said indifferently, "Palace master, she has 2 peak martial kings accompanying her. There shouldn't be a problem. Although Juda Palace is only a fifth-rate sect, their poison techniques are the best in Jianghu. If they have any designs on Palace master Shi, even peak martial kings may not be safe." Elder Wei said gravely. "Elder Wei, what do you mean?" Jun Changxiao asked. Elder Wei said, "At the peak of Mount Hua, Palace master Miaohua did not hesitate to offend 2 third-rate evil sects to cheer for our sect of all times. Therefore, I think we should send someone to take a look." Jun Changxiao said with a smile. "Elder Wei is worried about his old lover." Elder Wei said with a puzzled expression, "Isn't the Patriarch worried about Palace master Shi?" Jun Changxiao said, "Palace master Shi and I are old friends. Since I know she's going to the hangmen banquet, I naturally can't ignore it." "Elder Wei, bring Elder Jiang to Juda Palace. Tell him that the sect of all times is visiting." "Yes." Elder Wei hurriedly got up and flew to southern desolate state, with Jiangya as fast as he could. On the way, he thought to himself, "If Palace master Shi is really in trouble, the Patriarch will definitely be able to increase her favorability with him if he personally comes to save her. But he sent us here and just sat in the sect. This is really hopeless." Elder Wei was definitely a king in love. However, when faced with the bronze-level Jun Changxiao, he could only cry out, "I can't bring him along." "Palace master Shi." Jun Changxiao stood outside the main hall and said, "I hope nothing bad happens." He could have gone to southern desolate state himself. But after all, it was just a fifth-rate evil sect. Sending 2 emperors was already giving them a lot of face. Li Luochio muttered, "If this disciple is in danger, the Patriarch would probably be in a killing frenzy in southern desolate state right now." Suddenly, a report from a member came to his ears. "Patriarch, a scout reported that in a dark forest in eastern Haozhou, that few people have set foot in, all the vegetation within 5 kilometers has withered. There's no sign of life. Precise location. It's Jun Changxiao's armored wings unfolded. With the support of flight, he turned into a streak of light and disappeared into the sky. Li Luochio shook her head speechlessly. He left a great beauty and didn't go to save her. He was quite proactive in this matter. As expected, the patriarch fell from a tree when he was young and had serious problems. Chapter 829. Jun Changshao rushed to the eastern Haozhou as quickly as possible and landed in a barren mountain forest. The trees and flowers in this area were all withered, and there was no sign of life at all. Occasionally, the wind would blow over, making it seem gloomy and eerie. Jun Changshao frowned. The system said, "From the looks of it, it is very similar to what the Array Emperor said. Could it be that the soul race has made a comeback and attached themselves to the humans? That's a bit troublesome," Jun Changshao said solemnly. The soul race could not be underestimated after triggering a war between the emperors. If they were not found as soon as possible and allowed to continue developing, the consequences would definitely be unimaginable. The system said, "Didn't the host not care? When the nest is overturned, there will be no unbroken eggs," Jun Changshao said. "When the soul race's momentum is complete, it will set off a storm of blood in the falling star continent. My sect of all times will definitely be affected. It is the fortune of the continent for the host to think this way," the system said. Jun Changshao squatted down, looked at the withered flowers and muttered to himself. The Array Emperor said that the soul race can absorb the spirit energy of martial artists for their own use. Why would they absorb the insignificant energy of plants? It's very simple, the system said. Not strong enough. Jun Changshao stood up, looked around and said, "That's why we have to find the parasitic humans as soon as possible and kill the soul race." However, how to find it was a problem. Jun Changshao's brain worked quickly and said, "Since it's not strong enough, it needs more energy to grow. As long as we pay more attention to remote areas, we should be able to find clues." Patriarch. The sound transmission of the Drizzle Hall's spies hundreds of miles away sounded in his ears. This disciple has discovered another withered area. Shua. Jun Changshao used his movement technique and arrived at the second scene in just a few minutes. Everything around him had their life force sucked away, and there was even a beast that was as thin as firewood. This is an adult spirit beast. It weighs at least 1,000 kilograms. The system said. Jun Changshao said. To be able to absorb the energy of the beasts, it seems that this soul race is not weak. One after another, spies discovered the withered scene. After investigating one by one, the final conclusion was that this person should be going to the Southeast Shu province. Jun Changshao flew into the Southeast Shu province, which he had never set foot in before. As a result, after searching for a whole day, he still could not find the scene of the withering. Thus he wondered, could it be that it didn't come here? After returning to the sect, he ordered Li Luoqiu to quickly set up an intelligence network to cover the Southeast First Province. Yes. Hall Master Li immediately got busy. Batches of Drizzle Hall members riding speed-type ferocious beasts surged into the Southeast Province. As of now, the Sect of All Times' intelligence network was already very extensive, but there was still some time before it could be fully laid out. Jun Patriarch was definitely not in a hurry for things to develop normally. Now that the suspected Spiritus had appeared, he wanted nothing more than to control the entire world's intelligence. He wanted to have a sentry every 5 steps, and a sentry every 10 steps. In fact, there was no need for him to take responsibility for such a matter that concerned the world. He could also tell the major forces and relevant departments. Since you can't trust others, you should investigate it yourself. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples. Then, he woke up early the next morning and led his disciples to the training field to do morning exercises happily. It was a big matter. It was not as important as dancing. Patriarch. Just as they finished dancing, Li Luoqiu hurried into the hall and said nervously, Elder Wei and Elder Jiang are trapped in 9 Poison Palace. What? Jun Changshao stood up immediately. A 5th-rate evil sect could trap 2 Wu Huangs? Li Luoqiu said. According to Elder Jiang's news, the 2 of them are poisoned and the antidote pills are ineffective. Although they can protect themselves, they can't save Palace Master Shi and the others. Whoosh! Before she could finish, Jun Changshao had already disappeared from the hall. As expected, just as Li Luoqiu said, If someone in the sect was in trouble, this guy would go faster than anyone else. Southern Desolate Province. There was a primitive forest with many poisonous creatures, such as scorpions, centipedes, spiders, etc., so it was called the 10,000 Poison Forest by the locals. 800 years ago, a martial artist who was proficient in poison entered and founded the 9 Poison Palace, famous for its 9 types of poison. There weren't many disciples in this sect, and it took them a few hundred years to reach the 5th rate. However, the poison arts that were impossible to guard against were feared by many large sections. Moreover, the most troublesome thing for martial artists was, this evil sect had even set up a poisonous miasma in the forest. If they wanted to enter, they had to be prepared to resist the poison. Jun Changshao had the antidote pill, and did not put the 9 Poison Palace in his eyes, so he sent Elder Wei and Jiangye over. In the end, the 2 of them went in, but they were also trapped in the palace. I was careless. When he arrived, Jun Changshao secretly said. The system said, the antidote pill can only cure 100 poisons. There are tens of thousands of poisons in the Falling Star continent, so you have to refresh the store, and buy stronger antidote pill formulas. As expected of a qualified salesman, he would never forget to instigate the host to spend. Schwa. Jun Changshao ignored him and sped up. 2 hours later, he arrived at the southern Barren State's 1,000 Poison Forest from the northwest Yangzhou. Whoosh whoosh. A cold wind blew from inside, emitting a nauseating smell. At this time, any martial artist with experience in surviving in the wild could instantly realize that there must be a poisonous miasma in the forest. If they could not resolve it, they would definitely die. Ta. Jun Changshao walked in and stepped on the decaying leaves. Centipedes, spiders and other poisonous creatures quickly rushed out. However, before they could attack, they suddenly turned into ashes. After walking for about 2 to 3 miles, suddenly, a green python rushed out from the bushes and instantly wrapped around Jun Changshao. It opened its mouth and was about to swallow his head. But immediately after, a sense of danger rose in his heart. He was about to let go of the human and escape, but it was too late. His entire body was instantly burned to ashes under the high temperature. Whoosh whoosh. Jun Changshao's body erupted with flames until they disappeared. Then, he continued to move forward and finally stopped in front of an area that looked like clouds and fog. This is miasma, it's highly poisonous. The system said. Let me try and see how poisonous it is. Jun Changshao walked in, then opened his mouth and took a deep breath, only to see the billowing poisonous mist being absorbed into his body. If a martial artist saw this, his eyeballs would definitely pop out. In front of the miasma, who wouldn't think about how to avoid being affected by the poison? This guy actually took the initiative to absorb it. Wasn't he afraid of dying immediately? About a moment later, Jun Changshao absorbed a large amount of poison, his face alternating between green and red. It was obvious that the poison had gathered in his body. Whoosh! Suddenly, all kinds of flames erupted from his body, once again turning him into a walking flaming man. The poison in his body that was attacking everywhere was instantly evaporated into ashes. Puff! Jun Changshao farted. The turbid air spurted out from below, and shook his head. With the body of holy flame, why would I be afraid of a mere poison? Puff! 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 As he walked he farted. The surrounding miasma gradually faded, and a large group of buildings gradually appeared in front of him. On the stone tablet that was crawling with poisonous snakes and spiders, there were 3 blood-red words: 9 Poison Temple. To dare trap my sect of all times' people, there's no need for this sect to exist. Puff! The system finally couldn't help but roar. Can you not expel the dissolved poison in the form of farting? Chapter 830. Elder Wei and Jiangye sat cross-legged in the 9 Venoms Temple, surrounded by a thick and strange fog. This was a poison cloud, one of the 9 great poisons of 9 Venoms Temple. Its toxicity was more than 10 times stronger than the miasma outside. When the poison cloud was first created, it was only effective against martial masters, but after generations of research, its toxicity became more and more intense. This was not Wu Huang-level Elder Wei and Jiangyu were already poisoned. Although they could suppress the poison with their spiritual energy, they could not move recklessly, let alone unleash their cultivation. Otherwise, the poison would corrode faster. This was very embarrassing. Actually, the two of them were very cautious when they came to the forest of 1,000 poisons. However, there were too many poisons inside, and the antidote could only neutralize a portion of it, so they could not avoid it. Thousands of Nine Venoms Temple disciples gathered outside the poison cloud, but they did not rush over. After all, the two trapped were Wu Huang, and approaching them would be suicide. The current situation was, Elder Wei and Jiangyu could temporarily resist the poison, and the Nine Venoms Temple disciples did not dare to attack. Both sides were in a stalemate. Both of you, a clear voice rang out. Although my Nine Venoms Temple is only a fifth-rate sect, its poison techniques are the best in the world. How can you casually barge in? He was not bragging. The person who poisoned the two martial emperors must have some real ability. Actually, with Nine Venoms Temple's poison techniques, they might not be afraid of third-rate or fourth-rate sections. However, there were too few people who cultivated poison techniques, and they stayed in the forest of 1,000 poisons all year round, so they were only a fifth-rate sect. Many factions cared more about their sect's rank to show off their strength, but some were indifferent. They either lived in seclusion or stood aloof from worldly affairs. Palace Master Miao. Elder Wei suppressed the poison and said, "We are here on the orders of the Patriarch to visit your temple. We are not here to cause trouble." Miao Saifeng, the current Palace Master of Nine Venoms Temple, a femme fatale. "Visit," Miao Saifeng said indifferently. "From what I see, you are here for Miaohua Palace, right?" Elder Wei did not deny it and said, "As far as I know, your Nine Venoms Temple has no grudges with Miaohua Palace. Why did you use the invitation as an excuse to trap Palace Master Shi in the palace?" Kakik, a bell-like laughter rang out. "Do our two palaces have any grudges that we need to repay your sect of all times? Or do you think that you can strut around and interfere with other sects, just because you've won the Dragon Tiger tournament?" "Humph," Jiangyu said calmly. "We have no intention of making things difficult for your palace." "Do you think that the sect of all times is a pushover? If it wasn't for the fact that he had to suppress the poison cloud, with his strength at Wu Huang's level, he could absolutely beat up the Nine Poisons Temple." "Palace Master Miao, my family's patriarch has a bad temper. You'd better hand over the antidote quickly and release Palace Master Shi. Otherwise bear the consequences," Elder Wei said in a deep voice. "Haha," Miao Saifeng laughed and said, "Wei Qingfeng, are you threatening me?" Elder Wei was stunned. "You know me? When he roamed the Jianghu, he always appeared as Old Wei or Weizi. The only people who knew his real name were Wei Qingfeng. I'm afraid you've already forgotten," Miao Saifeng said in a cold voice. "Back then at Yearning Cliff, I made a promise to an inexperienced girl to hold her hand and grow old with her." Jiangyu's mouth twitched. Making such a mushy promise was very much in line with Elder Wei's style. So could it be that this Nine Poisons Temple was his some ex-girlfriend? Yearning Cliff? Hold her hand and grow old with her? Elder Wei thought for a while and said in shock, "You're Cece? Hee. I didn't expect you to remember her. You're not Cece. I can't even recognize your voice. Why would Mother miss you so much back then?" "Mother?" Elder Wei was stunned. "You're her daughter?" Jiangyu's expression became interesting. This Nine Poisons Temple Master was Elder Wei's ex-lover's daughter. From her words, she didn't seem friendly. It would be difficult to save Palace Master Shi. "Wei Qingfeng," Miao Saifeng said in a cold voice. "If it wasn't for Mother repeatedly telling me not to look for a heartless man like you, you would have died 100 times by now. How dare you come to Nine Poisons Temple?" "Cece Shi," Elder Wei trembled and said in a hoarse voice. "She's not anymore?" His expression gradually became ferocious. This wasn't caused by the poison, but by the pain in his heart. Miao Saifeng scolded. "Scum like you don't deserve to call my mother's name." The thousands of disciples were stunned. They had never seen their palace master so angry before. Elder Wei lowered his head and said with a guilty expression, "Yes, I've let her down. My sin is unforgivable." Jiangya, who was sitting cross-legged at the side, broke down. Elder Wei, with your rich love history, any one of them could be written into a book. Wei Qingfeng. Miao Saifeng said in a cold voice. I promised Mother that I wouldn't look for a heartless man like you in my lifetime. However, since I've taken the initiative to come to you today, I've chosen to barge into the Yellow Springs. Child. Elder Wei struggled to raise his head. His eyes were red as he said, Can you tell me how your mother passed away? Because of a heartless man like you. It wasn't hard to tell that Miao Saifeng was speaking through gritted teeth. Pfft. Elder Wei spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. The poison cloud's poison couldn't break through his defenses. However, when he found out that the woman he once loved had died because of him, all his defenses collapsed. He raised his head and roared. His voice was filled with pain and regret. Elder Wei. Jiangya hurriedly transmitted his voice to Elder Wei. Don't mess up your mind. However, it was too late. Elder Wei's mind was already messed up because of Cece's death. The poison was madly invading his body, but the pain it brought was far from comparable to the pain he felt in his heart. Brother Qingfeng, I came out from the southern barren state alone. Luckily, I met you and didn't get bullied by bad people. So our fate is destined. Brother Qingfeng, Cece only has you in her heart. There is no room for other men. You must not let me down. If I let you down, I'm willing to accept. Don't say any more. Brother Qifeng is going to make a big career. I can't help you. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for the day you succeed. When this matter is over, I'll hold your hand and grow old with you. At the bottom of the cliff, Wei Qingfeng, who was dressed in a long robe, turned and left, leaving behind the beauty who looked into the distance with tears in her eyes. This pair of perfect couple had been separated for hundreds of years. When they were mentioned again today, they were already separated by life and death. Elder Wei clutched his chest. His heart, chest, and even his entire body felt like it was being cut by knives. Wei Qingfeng stopped pretending. Miao Jinfeng said coldly, I know you very well. You are a heartless man who cheats on women everywhere. There are at least 80 women who have been ruined by you. Elder Wei's face was filled with pain as he muttered to himself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I let you down. Let's talk in hell. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, streaks of cold light shot over. Elder Wei, who was already in a state of mental breakdown, didn't notice them at all. Ding, ding, ding. Dozens of poisonous needles hit Jiangya's spirit armor. He shouted, Elder Wei, pull yourself together. As he moved, the poisonous gas quickly gained the upper hand and madly devoured his meridians. His expression became even more ferocious. Miao Saifeng said coldly, let's not talk about my mother. Just by trespassing into the 9 Poisons Temple, the 2 of you will definitely die. Even if Jun Changxiao comes personally. Excuse me. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. Jiangya, who was forcefully suppressing the poison, heard this and was overjoyed. He said, Patriarch. Ta. On the stone slab that led to the training field, Jun Changxiao, who was dressed in white, walked over elegantly. He opened his folding fan and said, I'm here. Chapter 831. Jun Changxiao waved his folding fan and stood on the martial arts practice field. If there was a projection array at this time, it would definitely charm thousands of girls. However, such an elegant and graceful man was able to expel the poison in her body in such a manner. Well, the miasma outside was gone, but there was another kind. Patriarch. Jiangya transmitted his voice. There are a lot of poisons gathered here, and it is difficult for the antidote to dissolve them. Don't fall for it. Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and threw the modified multi-purpose vacuum cleaner over, saying, see if you can suck the poison out. This. Jiangya was stunned. However, thinking that old Ding's evil aura could be absorbed, the poison gas should be able to as well. Thus, he grabbed the handle and directly pressed the flat vacuum nozzle against Elder Wei's face. Pa! Start the first gear. A strong suction force suddenly burst out, and the black poison that could be seen with the naked eye surged along Elder Wei's skin, and was then absorbed into the vacuum cleaner. Yes. Jiangyu was overjoyed. Jun Changshao heaved a sigh of relief and said to himself, "Sure enough, the poison gas is not clean either." "Palace Master Miao," he said lightly, "I came personally as you wished. As the master, isn't it a bit inappropriate to hide in the dark?" In the depths of the poisonous fog, a graceful figure gradually appeared, saying, "Jun Patriarch, I didn't invite you. First, I sent Tu Wu Huang, and now you came yourself. What is your intention?" "It's very simple," Jun Changshao said. "Hand over Palace Master Shi." Since the vacuum cleaner could solve the poison, Elder Wei and Jiangye could be considered safe. Next, he would take Shi Jingxian away. Although he was bronze in love, if he saved his own people and left her here, then it would really be a godly operation. Gradually, Miao Saifeng appeared from the poisonous fog. This was a slender and beautiful woman. Her black hair flowed down like a waterfall, and her eyes were as clear as a stream. Jun Changshao said, "Palace Master Miao is extraordinarily beautiful. She doesn't cultivate martial arts but rather poison. I'm afraid no man would dare to marry her in this lifetime." Miao Saifeng was indeed pretty. If the full score was 10, he would get at least 8.5. However, Jun Gosheng didn't have the slightest ripple. It was enough to show that his ability to resist beauty was very profound. Or perhaps he suffered from face blindness and couldn't tell who was beautiful and who wasn't. Miao Saifeng smiled and said, "Jun Patriarch cares so much about Palace Master Shi. Could it be that the two of you are related?" "Cut the crap," Jun Changshao said with a cold face. "If you don't hand him over quickly, I will raze this place to the ground." "Very fierce. Very manly." "Kikik." Miao Saifeng covered her mouth and laughed. She laughed like a blooming flower. After a while, his gaze gradually turned cold. "Jun Changshao, do you really think my 9-poison temple is a soft persimmon? Otherwise..." As Jun Changshao's voice fell, a vigorous qi domain erupted and instantly enveloped the martial arts field. The thousands of disciples within were immediately suppressed to the point that they were frozen in place like stone statues. Their eyes were filled with shock. At that moment, they could feel that if the other party was slightly unhappy, he could kill them with a thought. The 9-poison temple disciples were generally at the martial disciple and martial master level. In front of the peak sword and martial dual emperor Jun Changshao, they could only be considered as ants. Elder Wei and Jiangye could also do it. Unfortunately, after being hit by the poisonous cloud, recklessly releasing the qi domain would accelerate the poison's corrosion. It was strange to say. Miao Saifeng didn't suppress it. Instead, she smiled and said, "Jun Patriarch's skill is profound. It is admirable." Jun Changshao said, "Palace Master Miao is so fearless. Is it because of the 9 poisons that your 9-poison temple is so proud of?" "Jun Patriarch, didn't you notice that when you released the qi domain, the poison had already seeped into your body?" Miao Saifeng smiled. Jun Changshao frowned. The moment the qi domain was released, the poison in the air quickly merged into the body and attached to each meridian. Miao Saifeng smiled and said, "This is the heart-devouring poison. It is one of the 9 poisons of my 9-poison temple. As long as someone releases their aura or explodes their cultivation, it will take the opportunity to enter." "Che," Jun Changshao said indifferently, "it's just a small poison. It can't do anything to me." "I forgot to tell Jun Patriarch." Miao Saifeng smiled and said, "The stone floor under your feet is stained with one of the 9 poisons, the heart-devouring poison. If you are hit by it, the poison will also enter." Jun Changshao felt the poison seeping into the soles of his feet. He shook his head and said, "No wonder the 2 Wu Huang from my sect were trapped here. Your 9-poison temple is really hard to guard against." However, he paused and said, "What about the other poisons?" Miao Saifeng frowned slightly. The heart-devouring poison and the heart-devouring poison had entered his body. The poison should have already taken effect. How could this person be so calm? Could it be that he was strong enough to suppress it temporarily? As expected of the patriarch of the sect of all times, whose name has spread far and wide in the Jianghu, you can still talk and laugh while resisting 2 of my poisons. Miao Saifeng said coldly, "You flatter me." Jun Changshao said modestly, "Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh." Suddenly, Miao Saifeng waved her hand and dozens of cold lights flew over. Jun Changshao waved his sleeve and caught all the silver needles and concealed weapons in his hand. He smiled and said, "If I'm not wrong, this should be one of the 9 poisons of your 9-poison temple?" Miao Saifeng smiled and said, "Since you know, you still dare to use your hand to catch it. Jun Patriarch is really bold. There are still 6 poisons left. Let's use them all." Jun Changshao said, "Today, I want to test whether the 9 poisons of the 9-poison temple are the best in the world." Jiangya, who was helping Elder Wei absorb the poison, almost fell to the ground when he heard this. "Patriarch, if you can still withstand it, why don't you just take this woman down? Why do you have to experience the 9 poisons?" Jiangya didn't understand what it meant to be pretentious. "Jun Patriarch, with your cultivation level, 1 poison might not be effective. But now that 3 poisons have entered your body, even if you have Wu Sheng's cultivation level, you can only wait for the poison to take effect and die." Miao Saifeng said proudly. In terms of cultivation level, she and her disciples couldn't compare to the 5th-rate sects, but they had absolute confidence in the way of poison. "So you don't plan to use other poisons?" Jun Changshao asked. Seeing this guy's calm and collected expression, Miao Saifeng wanted to press his face to the ground and rub it. "It's very difficult to refine the 9 poisons of the 9-poison temple. Naturally, I won't waste them for you." "All right," Jun Changshao said. "Then I'll show you my incompetence." Whoosh, his body suddenly burst into colorful flames. It was quite colorful. Miao Saifeng's smile froze. Her almond-shaped eyes widened as she said, "Scarlet Star Absolute Flame, Purple Mystic Sacred Flame, Heavenly Spirit Blue Flame. You have the body of sacred flame that can incinerate everything." "What else?" Jun Changshao, who was in the flames, was like a fire god descending to the mortal world. The intense heat that spread out burned everything around him. Under the burning of the strongest flames, all poisons were reduced to nothingness. Puff! Suddenly, billowing smoke came out of his butt. Elder Wei and Jiangya behind him heard it, and immediately rolled their eyes and collapsed. Most of the disciples of the 9-poison temple were not spared. They fainted on the spot, but because of the suppression of their qi domain, they were still able to maintain their standing posture. Miao Saifeng's expression completely collapsed. This guy was the leader of a sect. How could he do such a shameless and uncivilized thing in public? Swoosh! Jun Changshao appeared in front of Miao Saifeng. His hands suddenly stretched out and tore apart the invisible barrier of the array. Then he grabbed her delicate neck and pulled her back. With a bang, he pressed her against the wall of the main hall. From the perspective of a romance drama, this was a domineering CEO pushing a woman against the wall, and then coldly saying, "Woman, love me." However, Jun Changshao, however, locked onto the other's throat. His gaze was cold as he said, "Hand over Palace Master Shi, and this seat will spare your life." Crack! With a little force, the crisp sound of bones could be heard. Protective feelings for the fairer sex? It didn't exist. Chapter 832. The qi domain released by Jun Changshao was extremely strong. Even Wu Huang of the same level might not be able to withstand it. Why was Miao Saifeng, whose cultivation level was lower than Wu Zong's, not affected? Because there was an array that not only enveloped her, but also the main hall. Jun Changshao, who had attainments in array formations, was the first to discover it, so he decided to break the array. In order not to arouse the woman's vigilance, he deliberately endured the 3 poisons. So, from this, it could be seen that Jun Changshao was not trying to show off, nor was he trying to show off his sacred flame body, but had his own thoughts. "You!" Miao Saifeng's face became more and more sinister, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. The 3 poisons gathered in his body, even if they could not poison him to death, they should be able to restrict his cultivation from exploding. How could he still rush over so recklessly? Moreover, there was an extremely strong defensive array in front of him. Why was it so easily broken? Miao Saifeng was able to face Jun Changshao fearlessly because of the poison and array formations that existed everywhere in the sect. When these 2 things did not work, then she was really inferior to an ant. Crack. He increased the strength of his hand. Jun Changshao said coldly, I have many methods to make your death more painful than being poisoned. Cough. Cough. Miao Saifeng was pinched so hard that her breathing became rapid, and her face became more and more sinister. This woman was also arrogant. Even if she was in a life-and-death situation, she still had no intention of compromising. Speak. Jun Changshao said coldly. Where is Palace Master Shi? He had already released his spiritual sense, but there were many arrays and poisonous fog areas in the 9-poison palace, so he was unable to search in detail. The system collapsed. Loosen up a little, let him talk to you. That's true. Jun Changshao retracted his strength. As a result, Miao Saifeng's pain was alleviated a lot, and she tried to squeeze out a smile. Jun Patriarch, since you care so much about Shi Jingxian, she should be your lover. What do you mean? Jun Changshao could tell that there was a hidden meaning in her words. Miao Saifeng's smile became more sinister and terrifying. My 9 poisons temple has 9 types of poisons. 4 of them can be used directly, and the other 5 cannot be used directly, because they are stored in the poison abyss. Crack. Jun Changshao increased the strength of his hand once more and said coldly, You threw Palace Master Shi into the poison abyss? All 5 poisons are present, there's no cure. Miao Saifeng said ferociously. There is a valley to the west of the palace. If you go there now, maybe you can see your lover one last time. Boom! Jun Changshao directly grabbed her head and slammed it against the wall, causing her to faint on the spot. Then, he quickly flew towards the west of the main hall. Palace Master. Following his departure, the Qi domain also dissipated. The disciples of the 9 Venoms Temple all rushed over. Pa! Jiang Ye fiercely pulled the mouth away from his face. Circulating his dantian, he roared. Let's see who dares to move. Hoo-hoo! The Qi domain exploded and filled the entire training field. The disciples of the 9 Venoms Temple, who had just broken free from the bindings, slowed down again, and then froze on the spot. This was not a direct suppression, but a shock from the angry roar. With the poison in his body gone, Elder Jiang regained his masculinity. As for Elder Wei, although the poison had been removed, he was still in a daze on the spot. When I was young, for my brothers and my career, I gave up on love. In the end, I didn't manage to protect anything. My heart was throbbing with pain. Elder Wei. Jiang Ye's imagination went wild. Your name has Feng, and her name has Feng. Could she be your daughter? Don't talk nonsense, Elder Wei said. Although Cece and I were in love, we did not do anything that crossed the line. He was very sentimental, but it did not mean that he had to take one down just because he loved one. Compared to a scumbag who pulled up his pants and turned his back on him, he was better. West of the main hall, there was a valley surrounded by poisonous gas. This was the forbidden area of the 9 Venoms Temple. Without the orders of the higher-ups, no one was allowed to enter. At this moment, in the central area of the valley, Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue were tied to a pillar. Although their eyes were filled with endless anger, their faces were abnormally weak. The 2 of them were poisoned. It was similar to cartilage powder. Elders. A beautiful woman in her early 20s smiled and said, If you had elected me as the palace lord of Ingenious Flower Palace back then, we would not have ended up like this. Tan Huiying, Leng Xingyue reprimanded. We have long seen that you have evil intentions. Why would we have handed the position of palace lord to you? Tan Huiying gritted her teeth and said, Shi Jingxian killed her father and mother, something that is intolerable by the heavens. Do you think she has evil intentions? There is a reason. Stop talking, Tan Huiying said coldly. Today, I will let the blind girl that you have painstakingly elected die in this poisonous abyss. Zhang Sunfanghua rebuked angrily. Tan Huiying, if you dare to harm the palace lord, Grand Elder will definitely not forgive you. Grand Elder? Tan Huiying sneered disapprovingly. Don't think that she has already entered the Emperor stage. Coming to the 9 Poisons Palace is just a suicide mission. Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue's expressions were ugly. They really did not expect that a 5th-rate sect would be so powerful, that they would be poisoned as soon as they entered. If they had known that this would be the result, they would not have let the palace lord come no matter what. Oh right. Tan Huiying smiled sinisterly. The sect of all times sent 2 elders, but they are now trapped in the poisonous clouds. Their cultivation is also Wu Huang. Do you still think that Grand Elder can do anything to me? The sect of all times sent people? Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue were overjoyed. Although they had always been wary of Jun Changshao and did not want to get too close to the palace lord, they had to admit that this person was very strong. Now that he sent people over, he must have known that the palace lord was trapped in the 9 Poisons Palace. Tan Huiying, Leng Xingyue said coldly. You dare to offend the people of the sect of all times? Just wait for your sect to be destroyed. Destroyed? Tan Huiying sneered. Let's see if Wu Sheng can do it. As she spoke, she walked to the mouth of the well and said, Shi Jingxian, you stole my position as the palace lord back then. Today, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Pa! She grabbed the joystick beside her. This well was the poison abyss, and the joystick was the activation device. As long as it was pulled down, 5 types of poison would spurt out. At that time, if a cultivator came into contact with even the slightest bit of poison, they would be incurable and die painfully from the various poisons. Senior Sister Tan, Shi Jingxian, who was in the poison abyss, said powerlessly, In your eyes, is the position of the palace lord so important? Although she would act like a little girl in front of Jun Changshao, she could be so calm in the face of death. It was enough to show that she had a big heart. If I lost to the other sect members, I naturally wouldn't care. Tan Huiying gritted her teeth and said, But to lose to a blind person like you, I really can't accept it. Shi Jingxian said, This is the wish of the Grand Elder and the elders. I can only obey. I have no intention of stealing Senior Sister's position as the palace lord. Stop acting pitiful here, Tan Huiying said angrily. Ka! The joystick was suddenly pulled down, and the mouth of the well was immediately completely sealed by a special stone slab. Chapter 833. Boom! The stone slab completely sealed the well, and the interior was instantly plunged into darkness. If it were anyone else, they would have been scared out of their wits. However, Shi Jingxian was calm because she had lived in darkness since she was born. Am I going to die? She huddled in a corner and hugged her curled-up legs with great difficulty. It wasn't because she was afraid, but because she was too weak due to the poison. Whoosh! Whoosh! 5-colored poisonous gas slowly spewed out from the cracks and gradually gathered in the well. At that moment, Shi Jingxian realized that she was about to die, but there was no fear on her face. Instead, there was relief. Facing darkness every day made her fearless of death. However, not being able to complete the previous palace lord's mission, to bring Ingenious Flower Palace to the next level, was her greatest regret. Also, Shi Jingxian buried her head in her knees and murmured, I couldn't see Jun Patriarch's face clearly. In her dark life, there was only a brief moment of light. At that time, she remembered a blurry face. Although it was different from what she imagined, at least she could think about it when she was free. Someone would ask, why did Shi Jingxian care about Jun Changshao? The reason was that after more than 20 years of darkness, a person finally appeared in her sight. Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian blamed herself. I've troubled you. She heard what Tan Huiying said just now and knew that the sect of all times had sent an elder here. Whoosh! Whoosh! More and more poisons gathered in the poison abyss. They were emotionless and merciless as they seeped into this weak woman's body. Shi Jingxian felt a headache coming on. She felt very sleepy and tired, so she lay down gently. Whoosh! Tan Huiying grabbed the sword beside her and walked toward Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue. The 5 poisons in the poison abyss are all strange poisons in the world. Anyone who touches them will die without a doubt. Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue's expressions changed drastically. Ha ha ha. Tan Huiying laughed like a madwoman. Then she approached step by step. Back then, I served you carefully, hoping to be valued. But in the end, I was expelled from the sect. Why? Why? Because you only want to become the palace lord. I have strength and talent. I'm 100 times stronger than Shi Jingxian. Why can't I be the palace lord? If you want to know the reason, I'll tell you today. Zhang Sun Fanghua raised her head with difficulty. Before the previous palace lord left, he deduced that if Shi Jingxian succeeds the position of palace lord, the sect will be even more glorious. If you succeed the position of palace lord, you will only walk towards destruction. The palace master was in deep danger, and he himself was unable to break free. Since he was going to die either way, there was no harm in revealing the secret of the past. So that's the reason why Shi Jingxian inherited the position of palace master and abandoned me. Ha ha ha. Tan Huiying stopped laughing, and her expression gradually turned sinister. But, from the looks of it, her deductions were wrong. Allowing blind to inherit the position of palace master would lead to destruction. Shua. He suddenly brandished his sword, chopping towards Zhang Sun Fanghua. This woman had already lost her mind. Not only did she want to kill Shi Jingxian, she also wanted to kill the upper echelons of Miaohua Palace. Because this was the only way to deny the previous palace master's deduction, and prove that the woman had taken over as palace master, and was the culprit behind the sect's destruction. Zhang Sun Fanghua closed her eyes. The palace lord was trapped in the poison abyss, and had to endure the corrosion of the 5 poisons. He had failed to protect her. He had let down the previous palace master, and the ancestors in the underworld. Ding! Suddenly, a clear and melodious sound was heard. Zhang Sun Fanghua sensed the sound of a sword brushing past her neck, so she hurriedly opened her eyes. In her field of vision, a man in white landed. Although his back was facing her, she instantly thought of that man. Looking at the sword that had been broken by a ray of light, Tan Huiying said in surprise, "Who are you?" Smack. Jun Changshao grabbed her neck and lifted her up. He said coldly, "Where's Palace Master Shi?" The system complained. Only when the host is ruthless will he take advantage of other girls like crazy. Although, the method is a bit extreme. Jun Patriarch. Lung Xingyue was the first to come back to her senses. She hurriedly said, "The palace master is locked in the well in front. There are 5 types of deadly poison inside." She and Zhang Sun Fanghua had already given up. However, Jun Changxiao's appearance was like a life-saving straw for the two of them, reigniting their hope. This man was very strong and unusual. He could definitely save the palace master from danger. Shua. Jun Changxiao found the sealed well. He dragged Tan Huiying over and said, "Open it." I can't open it." Tan Huiying's voice was hoarse. "Only when the poison gas dissipates will it automatically." Bang! Before she could finish speaking, she was thrown to the ground. Jun Changxiao used a lot of strength. Tan Huiying's meridians were damaged, and she lost the ability to stand up. She endured the pain, but she was thinking about how he had broken through the main hall of the 9 Poisons Palace, where the palace master and the higher-ups were. Boom! Jun Changxiao stood in front of the sealed well. He poured spiritual energy into his fist and punched the stone slab. However, it didn't budge. The system said, "This is a stone with extremely high density. If you want to break it." Ka. Jun Changxiao raised his fist again. Iron blocks instantly gathered around him, as if he was wearing an Iron Man's gloves. "Fine. Pretend I didn't say anything." Under the activation of the mechanical armed wings, Jun Changxiao gathered all the spiritual energy in his body and punched the stone slab. This punch could be said to be quite explosive. Not only did it shatter with a bang, it also turned into powder. Ho. The moment the well was blasted open, the 5 poisons inside crazily rushed out. Shua! Jun Changxiao jumped down without any hesitation. He fell to the bottom of the well and picked up Shi Jingxian, who was trapped in the poisonous fog. The whole process was very short. When he landed outside the well, he only felt that the 5 poisons that had seeped into his body were crazily disturbing his meridians. The discomfort it brought was even more intense than the other 3 poisons. Ho. The flame in his body burst out and spread instantly. The strongest and fiercest flame purified all the poisons. Only then did his eyebrows gradually relax. Tan Huiying leaned to the side, seeing Jun Changxiao jump down, and still be able to jump back up as if nothing had happened. Her eyes almost popped out. The 5 poisons were present. He was dead for sure. How could this guy come out safe and sound after going in? Shwa! There was no time to think, because Tan Huiying suddenly felt that her body was floating, and then she fell upside down into the well. So ignoring the pain all over her body, she screamed in despair. No! Tragic screams came from the poison abyss. The pain caused by the 5 poisons, seeping into Tan Huiying's body, was really indescribable. Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue, who were tied up, felt a chill on their backs. They looked at Shi Jingxian, who was lying in Jun Changxiao's arms, and shouted sorrowfully, "Master! I'm sorry." Jun Changxiao lowered his head and said, "I'm late." He was not talking to Shi Jingxian, but to the 2 elders. The woman in his arms seemed to be sleeping, but when she was rescued, she was already not breathing, heartbeat, and lifeless. Sigh. The system sighed. Beautiful women are unfortunate. Chapter 834. When Jun Changxiao was interrogating Miao Saifeng, Tan Huiying had already pulled down the joystick. Although she rushed over as fast as she could and violently broke through the layers of arrays, she was still a step too late. Shi Jingxian had been poisoned too deeply, and had long lost her life. With all 5 poisons present, she would definitely die. As long as it seeped into the body of a martial artist, even an immortal would find it difficult to save them. Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue saw the palace master's hands hanging down, and immediately felt sad, tears welling up in their eyes. They thought that with Jun Patriarch's arrival, the palace master would be able to avert the disaster. But the result was still irreversible. "I'm sorry." Jun Changxiao stood in place with Shi Jingxian in his arms. Self-blame and pain flooded his sea of consciousness like a flood. If he had taken the 9 poisons temple to heart and personally came to rescue her, she would not have died. "It's my fault. It's all my fault." Jun Changxiao and Shi Jingxian were not like what Miao Saifeng thought. But after all, they had known each other for a long time, and could be considered friends. Now that she had died, how could he not be heartbroken? Huff huff. Suddenly, a strong murderous intent surged around Jun Changxiao. There was only one thought in his mind, which was to destroy the 9 poisons temple, and burn all the poisons here. Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue looked at the murderous man with fear in their eyes. At this moment, it was as if they were not looking at a human, but a demon from hell. Cough. Suddenly there was a light gasp. Jun Changxiao, who was about to set fire to the mountain, was stunned. He hurriedly looked down and saw Shi Jingxian opening her small mouth and breathing rapidly, as if she had been holding her breath for a long time. Her pale face gradually regained its color. She was not dead. She was still alive. Huff huff. Suddenly, a strong wave of air erupted from Shi Jingxian's body. Her hair was blown away, and red lines appeared on the left side of her face, like some kind of strange tattoo. Jun Changxiao was stunned. Ever since he met Shi Jingxian, they did not fall in love. This woman's bangs had always covered half of her face. At first he thought that it might be such a hairstyle. Now that there was a pattern on his face, it meant that he was deliberately covering it up. Jun Changxiao didn't have time to think. He grabbed Shi Jingxian's wrist with one hand. Although he could feel a slight pulse, there were 5 types of toxins, and another strange aura crazily fighting against each other in her body. Situation. He was still in imminent danger. Ding! The host has spent 1,000 contribution points, and received a magically modified multifunctional vacuum cleaner X1. It has been transported into the space ring. Ding! Before the notification ended, Jun Changxiao placed Shi Jingxian on the ground, took out the vacuum cleaner he had just bought, and placed it on his wrist with the mouth facing his face. With a snap, he turned on the 3rd gear. The system had never seen the host purchase goods at such a fast speed. It would be great if he could buy things so quickly every time. It was a matter of life and death. Jun Changxiao could not afford any delays. Few with 3 levels of suction, the 5 types of toxins in Shi Jingxian's body that were fighting against another type of aura were immediately sucked out. Jun Changxiao breathed a sigh of relief. However, Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue were stunned. What was that guy doing to the palace master with something that looked like a broom in his hand? There were many ways to detoxify. The most common way was for the detoxifier to sit cross-legged behind the poisoned person, place both palms on the person's back, and force the toxins out of the body with deep internal strength. The most awesome was the yin and yang harmony detoxification method. In this situation, the poisoned person and the detoxifier had to be a man or a woman. If anyone thinks that a man or a woman is fine, please go to the hospital for a psychological examination. I will pay for the medical expenses. Jun Changshao did not take the normal path. He used a vacuum cleaner to detoxify the beauty in a desperate situation. The effect was very good. In a short while, all 5 types of toxins were sucked away. However, the other attribute that existed in the body was also sucked over. Jun Changshao was stunned. After many tests, the energy that was sucked away by the vacuum cleaner was not normal, such as evil aura, demonic aura, and poisonous gas. It was understandable that the 5 types of toxins were sucked away. The strange aura that fought against the toxins also followed, which meant that this thing was not clean either. That's good. I'll suck it out while I'm at it. Although the strange aura was drawn out, it was still stubbornly resisting. It was quite persistent. Bang! Suddenly, Shi Jingxian waved her jade-like hand and sent the flat vacuum cleaner flying. She stood up with a swoosh, and a strong wave of air erupted from her body, blowing her hair into a mess. On the left side of her face, complex lines flickered and extended to her left eye, gradually reflecting a strange pattern. Blood chakra? Jun Changshao frowned. Seeing the palace master suddenly stand up, Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue were overjoyed. However, seeing her long hair fluttering and a terrifying violent aura erupting from her body, they were shocked. The palace master is going berserk again. Shi Jingxian would fall into a berserk state when she was depressed. The two had seen it many times, but this time the aura was stronger and more terrifying than before. Then, under the force, he slammed her against the wall of the valley with a bang. System. It didn't matter if he used the strength to deal with a woman he didn't know like Miao Saifeng. But it was a bit too much to use so much strength on someone he knew. Jun Changshao couldn't be blamed. He had to use the most powerful method to control the blackened Shi Jingxian. He pressed the red button and activated the enhanced mode. Jun Changshao raised the vacuum cleaner and pressed it against the struggling Shi Jingxuan's arm. He shouted coldly, "Dirty thing, get out here." Chapter 835. If Mo Shang and Old Ding were present, they would definitely hug each other and cry. Why was it that after the vacuum cleaner was turned on, it automatically sucked on our heads, and even sucked away our hair? Why was it that when it was Shi Jingxian, it sucked on her arm? This was because Jun Changshao had used a lot of effort to press the flat sucker down and aim it at the girl's hand instead of her head. If it were someone else, it would be up to fate. Whoosh! Whoosh! Under the enhancement mode, the suction force produced by the vacuum cleaner was quite explosive. The violent aura around Shi Jingxian couldn't resist at all, and was sucked away in the blink of an eye. Jun Changshao didn't let down his guard. Because the released attributes were taken away, the attributes in her body were still there. He didn't care if this was caused by the soul race, or if it could help Shi Jingxian increase her strength. As long as it controlled her mind, and made her lose her mind, he had to destroy it. Whoosh! Whoosh! More and more energy was sucked away. Shi Jingxian, who was pressed against the wall by the psionic hand, had long hair scattered, and her cold eyes gradually became clear. In particular, the left eye pattern and the lines on the side of her face dimmed, as if they would disappear at any time. This, Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue were stunned. The words of the former palace lord before he left rang in their ears. Only when the pattern on this girl's face completely disappears will she not fall into a berserk state. At this moment, right now, wasn't it disappearing? Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue were overjoyed. The palace lord didn't die in the poison abyss. If the strange disease was cured, it would definitely be a blessing in disguise. At that moment, the two elders of Miahua Palace had a better impression of Jun Changshao. Whoosh! Whoosh! The powerful suction force was still erupting. The domineering attribute that controlled Shi Jingshuan's mind was still being sucked out, and finally stored in the vacuum cleaner. Although she tried to resist, she couldn't rush out at all. A minute later, the pattern in Shi Jingshuan's left eye faded, and the pattern on her face disappeared. Her head fell to the side, and she fell unconscious. Pa! Jun Changshao turned off the vacuum cleaner and wiped the sweat on his forehead. He heaved a long sigh of relief and said, "It's finally done. She's finally safe." Plop! Because of the disappearance of the psionic hand, Shi Jingxian lost her balance and fell. Jun Changshao, Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue. The system broke down and said, "Is wiping sweat more important, or is a girl more important? He doesn't know at all. Squat down." On the martial arts practice field, the poisonous clouds had already been sucked clean by the vacuum cleaner. Jiangye was berating with his hands behind his back. At this moment, the elders and disciples of the Nine Venoms Temple were all squatting on the ground. This sect was very good at using poison, but once it lost its effectiveness, they could just send any outer sect disciple from the sect of all times to defeat 100 of them. It's over, it's over. One of the elders broke down in his heart. She didn't approve of the palace master helping Tan Huiying deal with the palace master of Miaohua Palace. After all, Miaohua Palace was a fourth-rate sect. But she never thought that the sect of all times would be involved. According to the information they received, this newly risen sect had destroyed many heretical sects, and 2 third-rate heretical sects had been defeated as well. Now that they were under their control, they would definitely be wiped out. Huff huff, suddenly, a wave of heavy pressure came over. Everyone turned to look, and their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. In the main hall, 2 creatures that looked like dragons and elephants suddenly appeared, erupting with a pressure that seemed to come from ancient times. "Damn!" Jiangye exclaimed. "What's going on?" Rumble, the power of the dragon and elephant pressed down mercilessly. The Nine Venoms Temple that had existed for hundreds of years instantly ceased to exist, and a crater that was dozens of feet deep was formed. The dust gradually dissipated. Jun Changshao walked over with Shi Jingxian in his arms. Dragon and elephant prajna palm. Using it to destroy buildings is degrading me. Although Tan Huiying died tragically in the poison abyss, Shi Jingxian almost died, so there was no need for the Nine Venoms Temple to exist. In fact, just trapping Elder Wei and Jiangye was enough reason for Jun Changshao to destroy them. Behind him, Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue's eyes were filled with shock. They saw with their own eyes that the man condensed a terrifying power with a casual wave of his hand. They couldn't deny it. Every time the 2 of them met Jun Changshao, the strength they displayed was stronger than before. Jiangye looked at the faces of the 2 elders of Ingenious Flower Palace. Because of the thin red marks on their faces that were identical to Elder Wei's, they should have been sucked by a vacuum. "Brother, you have it on your face too." "Patriarch," Jiangye asked, "what should we do with the upper echelons and disciples? Cripple their spirit cores and meridians." Although Jun Patriarch liked to annihilate sects at will, he only targeted the culprits. For disciples like this, he would cripple them if he could, and not kill them cruelly. Although this was the other world, it was necessary to promote positive energy. Alright, Jiangye made his move. This guy had done things in the heretical sects, and was not careless in crippling their martial arts and spirit cores. In just a moment, the upper echelons and disciples of Nine Venoms Temple lay weakly on the ground. The higher level ones had their spirit cores crippled, while the lower level ones had their meridians crippled. If they wanted to cultivate martial arts again in this life, unless they encountered heaven-defying treasures, there was no hope for them. "It's gone. My cultivation is gone." The disciples of Nine Venoms Temple lay on the ground helplessly. Although they mainly cultivated the way of poison, many of their poison techniques relied on martial arts. Now that their martial arts had been crippled, it was equivalent to crippling 80% of their poison techniques. "Patriarch," Jiangye said, "what should we do with this woman?" Jun Changshao first looked at the unconscious Miao Saifeng, then looked at the dazed Elder Wei, shook his head and said, "Bring her back to the sect of all times." When he entered Nine Venoms Temple, He heard the conversation between the two. He knew that the palace master of Nine Venoms Temple was the daughter of Elder Wei's ex-girlfriend. So he did not go too far. He could avoid the death penalty, but he could not escape punishment. From now on, he would spend the rest of his life in the Sect of All Time's dungeon. If Zhao Daoda knew, he would definitely be overjoyed. After changing his cellmates again and again, it was finally no longer the terrifying Demon King, Half-Saint, or Wu Sheng, but a beautiful woman. Patriarch. Elder Wei stood up with difficulty and said, "Thank you." He knew that the reason the Patriarch did not kill Miao Saifeng was because of him. Whoosh whoosh. Outside the forest of 1,000 poisons, Jun Changshao and the others walked out. Not long after they left, scorching flames spread out and burned this area full of poisonous creatures to ashes. At this point, Nine Venoms Temple no longer existed. Those disciples who were not killed, even if they wanted to rebuild the sect in the future. But even the forest of 1,000 poisons was burned to ashes. Without the ideal poison zone, they were destined to lose all hope. Cough cough. On the way, Shi Jingxian, who was carried by Jun Changshao, moved her eyelashes slightly and slowly opened her eyes. Her head seemed to explode, and her memory was very chaotic. After sorting it out, she remembered that she was thrown into the poison abyss by Tan Huiying. Wait! Shi Jingxuan's delicate body suddenly shook. Suddenly, spots of light appeared in her originally dark vision, and then turned into a line that slowly expanded until her vision was completely occupied by the shining light. Because she was not used to it, she subconsciously closed her eyes again. Palace Master Shi, a voice sounded by her ear. Are you okay? Chapter 836. Hearing the voice beside her, Shi Jingxian immediately realized that it was Jun Patriarch. Why was he here? Wasn't she in the poison abyss? Was she not doomed? The face that seemed to exist in her mind and could never be erased appeared. Although it was different from what Shi Jingxian had imagined, she slowly got used to it after recalling it many times. If Jun Patriarch knew what Shi Jingxian was thinking, he would definitely squat in a corner and bury his head between his legs. I'm a handsome guy that can only be compared to a cross-dressing girl. But she's slowly getting used to it. After getting used to the light, Shi Jingxian opened her eyes again. Although her vision was still blurry, she could vaguely see the outline of a face that merged with her memory. She was sure that it was Jun Changshao. I. Shi Jingxian subconsciously raised her hand and touched the blurry face in her vision. Feeling the warmth in her palm, she said with a trembling voice, I saw it. I saw it. Saw it. Jun Changshao's expression froze. Suddenly, he noticed that Shi Jingxuan's originally empty eyes were gradually filled with color and some kind of emotion. Thus he said in surprise, Palace Master Shi, your eyesight has recovered. What? Zhang Sun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were stunned. I saw it. I really saw it. Shi Jingxian was still shouting. Perhaps she was too happy. Her eyes gradually became wet, and tears flowed down her cheeks. After 20 years of darkness, she could finally see the light again. Although the image was blurry and similar to severe myopia, at least it was not as scary. How could she not be overjoyed? How could she not cry tears of joy? What's this? Apple. What's this? Orange. On the giant rock, Jun Changshao sat cross-legged and took a fruit from the side. He asked, what about this? Shi Jingxian squinted and leaned over. After taking a closer look, she smiled and said, it's still an apple. Crunch. Jun Changshao took a bite and smiled as he chewed. Sure enough, under my treatment, Palace Master, she can finally see the light again. System, what the fuck are you treating? Why was Shi Jingxian able to see the light again? This was a question. At first, Jun Changshao guessed that he might have cured the eye disease by fighting poison with poison. But he also wondered if he had absorbed the strange aura. And not only had the person returned to normal, but his eyes had also recovered. Tears streamed down Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue's faces. Not only was the mark on the palace master's face removed, but his eye disease was also cured. This was definitely a blessing in disguise. Of course, at this moment, they also believed that Jun Changshao must be the reason why their palace master was able to escape from danger and see the light again. Therefore, they were extremely grateful in their hearts. However, although I can see, my eyesight is still a problem. It was more than just a little. It was simply severe myopia. Even if something was placed in front of his eyes, he could only see it vaguely. June Patriarch. Shi Jingxian smiled brightly. I'm very satisfied. For more than 20 years, she had only seen darkness whenever she opened or closed her eyes. No one could understand that kind of loneliness and fear. Now that she could see the light again, even if her vision was blurry, she was satisfied. Especially, now that she could see the man's face clearly, she didn't have to rely on her memory anymore. Actually, it's not a big problem. Jun Changshao threw away the unfinished apple and said, as long as you get a pair of glasses, the problem will be solved. Glasses? Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue looked at each other. There were definitely no short-sighted glasses in the Falling Star continent, but there were some in the store because he had bought dazzling sunglasses before. Jun Changshao was not in a hurry to travel. Instead, he rested where he was and opened the beginner's store. Since Palace Master Shi's eye disease had recovered, he would be a good person to the end and help her get a pair of glasses so that she could see the world better. The system said, there is love. Shi Jingxian sat on the grass and happily played with the flowers beside her. She murmured, it turns out that this world is so colorful. It turns out that flowers look like this instead of being square. She, who had been blind since she was young, could only understand the world from the mouths of others, and then rely on her own imagination. However, the things she imagined might not correspond to the reality. For example, Jun Changshao. Under Shi Jingshuan's rich imagination, the head was very flat, the nose was very long, and the eyes were very long. When she saw that the human appearance was different from her imagination, she was immediately depressed. She could not blame Go Sheng for not being handsome enough and not being popular enough for thousands of girls. Shi Jingshuan's eye disease was the problem. She was destined to see the world and things differently from normal people. When she gradually adapted to this world, distinguished what kind of people should be, and established her aesthetic standards, then looked at June Patriarch. Anyway, she was used to vomiting and vomiting. It didn't matter anymore. Ding, ding. Jun Changshao was still refreshing the beginner's store. His contribution points decreased by 10. He, who had tens of thousands of points, did not feel the pinch at all. Finally, after spending thousands of contribution points, a pair of God-modified multifunctional glasses appeared. The introduction said, no matter how much myopia is, wearing it will allow the patient to have normal vision. The special effect can be activated once a day to massage the eyes. In the long run, the patient will completely get rid of myopia and regain normal vision. Author G. I want T_T. This is it. Jun Changshao spent 50 contribution points to buy this retro, round-framed multifunctional glasses, so he murmured, it's quite suitable for a little girl to wear. In his previous world, glasses were sometimes more like ornaments. Different types of girls would appear more elegant and charming if they wore different styles. For example, a woman in the workplace would look very capable with black-rimmed glasses, while a girl next door would look very cute with round-rimmed glasses. Shi Jingxian belonged to the latter, the kind of weak girl next door. Palace Master Shi, Jun Changshao walked over and said, try it on. How? Forget it, I'll help you. Jun Changshao gently put on the glasses for Shi Jingxian, and the latter's vision suddenly became incomparably clear. She stood rooted to the ground like a wooden chicken. Just blurred vision was enough to satisfy her. Now that the scene became incomparably clear, the excitement was even more self-evident. So clear. I can see very far. At that moment, Shi Jingxian stood up happily like a child. She looked at the green mountains and clear waters in the distance, and looked at the endless sky. She looked even more adorable with her large round glasses. My name is Jun Changshao. I never would have thought that I would use such a method to let a girl with an eye disease see the light again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden quest, taking pleasure in helping others. Ding! Contribution points. 543-335-0000. Ding. Overflow of contribution points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden quest and triggering the hidden reward. You have obtained high-grade formation aptitude liquid X1. And you have obtained the right to purchase the plain battlefield teleportation gate X1. Jun Changxiao was stunned. Shi Jingxian put on her glasses and saw everything clearly. She had actually completed a hidden quest. This was completely unexpected. The next second, Goshen grinned. Although it took some time to help the girl and consumed some contribution points, the reward of 10,000 contribution points was still very profitable. Moreover, high-grade formation aptitude liquid was a good thing. After consuming it, his understanding of array formations would definitely rise to another level. What does the plain battlefield's secret teleportation gate mean? Jun Changxiao opened the shopping list and clicked on the item that appeared. The introduction displayed was Chapter 837. Helping Shi Jingxian regain her sight and see the colorful world was a matter of helping others. So Jun Changxiao completed the hidden mission. Actually, he had never flaunted himself as a good person, but he had definitely done good things. Why did he have to complete it now? The system explained. Some hidden missions weren't there from the beginning, but were added after the system continuously upgraded itself. As if I'll believe you, Jun Changxiao muttered, and then clicked on the item description. The system broke down. Shouldn't you be concerned about the girl who just regained her sight? Item: Dimensional Battlefield Teleportation Gate Description. The living beings of various dimensions are constantly multiplying, overcrowded and unable to bear the burden. So they opened up the dimensional battlefield, allowing cultivators of various dimensions to enter and fight, thus relieving the pressure of survival. Effect: This item can lead to the battlefield outside the region to fight with various races. It is the best place to gain experience. Advantage: Hidden cave abode in the battlefield, martial arts secret manuals and resources. Disadvantage: Life and death are determined by fate. Riches and honor are determined by the heavens. Price: 50,000 contribution points. Countdown: 59 minutes 10 seconds. After seeing the price, Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. 50,000 contribution points? This is too expensive. His current limit was only 50,000. Buying this item was equivalent to directly emptying his contribution points. What's the meaning of the countdown? This item is a limited time item. The host must purchase it within the specified time. Otherwise it will be permanently erased from the purchased items list, unable to be refreshed from the store in the future. There's such a thing. Jun Changxiao was stunned. The system said, there's a reason why it's expensive, recommending the host to buy 5. Before it finished, Jun Changxiao forcefully interrupted. I won't buy it even if the recommendation is 500,000 stars. 50,000 contribution points was simply too much. Moreover, the dimensional battlefield was for killing. Although there were various resources inside, life and death were determined by fate. Riches and honor were determined by the heavens. From this it could be seen. The so-called dimensional battlefield was definitely dangerous. It was definitely not a child's play. Moreover, as long as he made the sect strong, he would be able to complete the main mission and live a carefree life with his disciples. What was the use of going to the dimensional battlefield? Every item in the store is useful, such as hair gel, face masks, vacuum cleaners. This item is a limited time item. It's definitely more useful. The host will definitely not lose out or be fooled by buying it. Furthermore, I'm still keeping the contribution points that I got from my disciples' entry into the life and death secret realm. Even if I clear them all, I still have a lot more. The system was a qualified salesman. However, Jun Changxiao was not tempted. He was sticking to his principles. There was no other way. The system had an idea and said, since the extraterritorial battlefields are used by all the planes to kill each other, there must be a way back. If you buy it, wouldn't you be able to use the battlefield as a transit point to rob other planes? That makes sense. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. The system continued. The Soul Race's continent is also a plane. If the host breaks the seal and goes in, the other side might invade first. Using the teleportation gate to go to their world is both safe and convenient. After following June Patriarch for a long time, its imagination had improved a lot. Don't say it. After saying that, June Gosheng felt a rush of excitement. Thus, he rubbed his chin and muttered to himself, "Why don't I just buy it?" He had no interest in going to the battlefield to kill. If he could really use it to go to other planes, it would definitely be worth buying. The main mission was to make the sect the strongest. The key to becoming stronger was resources. If the falling star continent could not satisfy him, he could go to other places, such as the soul race's territory. It was the fastest way to improve. Buy. The system urged. Opportunity knocks but once. If there was no time limit, Jun Changshao might need to consider for a long time. However, seeing the time limit, he finally made up his mind and said, "I'll trust you one more time." Ding! The host has spent 50,000 contribution points. Obtain the plane battlefield teleportation gate X1. It has been sent to the spatial ring. Ding! Contribution points. 43335000. In the past, June Patriarch would feel the pinch when he spent thousands, or even tens of thousands of contribution points. Now seeing the 50,000 contribution points suddenly turn into a few thousand, he clutched his chest and said, "It hurts, Li Fei." The plane battlefield teleportation gate was similar to the life and death secret realm. It was in the shape of a whirlpool. Because he was in the wilderness, he did not take it out for a closer look. Palace Master Shi, Jun Changshao said, "Let's hurry." Shi Jingxian, who had completely recovered her vision after putting on her glasses, was very happy. Walking on the road, she was like a child walking out of the mountains, looking at the unfamiliar world with all kinds of curious attitudes. Of course, she also met many martial artists. After gradually establishing her aesthetic standards, she would occasionally sneak a glance at Jun Changshao and think to herself, "He's more pleasing to the eye than the others." It was definitely because she had seen too much. It was not the kind of first-time meeting and being shocked by a celestial being. At this time, as an expert in the field of love, he would definitely find an opportunity to talk to her and crazily increase her favorability in front of her. However, June Patriarch's spiritual senses entered the spatial ring and the vacuum cleaner, spying on the strange restless attribute inside. This unclean thing should be the culprit that caused Palace Master Shi to go berserk, and even cause blindness, right? At first, the system said that it was the soul race. When it was absorbed into the vacuum cleaner, Jun Changshao denied it. This was because the Array Emperor said that the energy released by the soul race was green. This was obviously not. Moreover, although the evil Shi Jingshuan's strength had increased greatly, she did not absorb the energy of others. So it was also one of the reasons why it was not the soul race. Sigh. June Patriarch rubbed his temples and said self-deprecatingly, "The soul race was able to trigger the war of the emperors in the ancient era, which means that they are good at hiding. How can I find them so easily?" The system said, "For now it's better to focus on those withered flowers and plants. As long as we find out who did it, we might be able to find the soul race." Yes, Jun Changshao thought so too. The withered area in eastern Haozhou, where the energy was absorbed, was the only clue left. As for whether he could find the answer he wanted, he had no idea. June Patriarch. After walking for a while and confirming that the palace master's eyes had completely recovered, Zhang Sunfenghua and Leng Xingyue took advantage of the rest to kneel down and bow. "Thank you so much." In the past, they hated Jun Changshao. After the incident at Nine Poisons Palace, especially when they saw him resolutely jump into the poison abyss to save the palace master, their attitude changed drastically. They even regretted mocking and ridiculing him back then. If June Patriarch pressed Shi Jingxian against the wall, then hooked her chin with his finger and domineeringly said, "Be my woman," the two elders would definitely not object. This was because he was willing to sacrifice himself to save her in a time of danger. Such a man was worth entrusting their lives to. However, it was just an if. In reality, June Patriarch waved his hand, and a thick spiritual energy erupted, stopping the two of them from kneeling down. He said, Palace Master Shi and I are friends. When a friend is in trouble, it's natural for me to save her. There's no need to thank me. Chapter 838. Although Shi Jingxian had regained her sight, to further prove that she would not go berserk, Jun Changshao kept telling her some tragic stories along the way. Every time she finished listening, Palace Master Shi would frown and show a depressed expression. But she remained normal and did not go berserk. At this point, Jun Changshao temporarily concluded that the energy that was sucked away was the culprit that caused her split personality. Thus he decided, it's impossible to release it. Let's just keep it locked up for now. The vacuum cleaner's internal walls were very strong. Unclean things could not rush out, so it was still capable of keeping it locked up for a long time. Jun Changshao was even considering whether or not he should prepare more. Jun Patriarch, Shi Jingxian said, is there another story? Yes. Jun Changshao sat down cross-legged, took a bite of an apple and said, yesterday I told you about Romeo and Juliet. Today I'll tell you about Liang Shanbua and Zhu Tai. System. Okay. Shi Jingxian opened her eyes wide, her face full of anticipation. The story is like this. Later, Liang Shanbua died, and Zhu Tai knelt in front of his grave crying. Suddenly, he saw Liang Shanbua's figure, so the two of them turned into butterflies and flew away. After listening, Shi Jingxian was already in tears. She took off her glasses, wiped her tears and said with a choked voice, why can't lovers be together in the end? Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, what is love in this world? It teaches people to live and die together. Palace Master Shi. After a pause he said, tomorrow I'll tell you the story of the cowherd and the weaver girl. The system couldn't help but complain. I think that at this time, the host should sing happy breakup, kind breakup. Breakup is no big deal. Autumn is the season for breakups. These kinds of songs are the best. Scram. I don't know how to sing. On the road, whenever they saw a beautiful place, Jun Changshao would deliberately stop to let Shi Jingxian enjoy it. The others tactfully left, giving the two of them a chance to be alone. So this is a waterfall. Shi Jingxian looked at the water that was like the Milky Way falling from the ninth heaven, and her smile became even brighter. In just a few days, she had already adapted to the colorful world, and her mood better. Of course, Shi Jingxian also knew that she was able to see the light of day again because of Jun Changshao. So every time she looked at him, her cheeks would unconsciously turn red. Jun Changshao didn't think much of it. Whenever he had time, he would study the strange energy inside the vacuum cleaner. It could instantly increase a person's strength by several times or even more. If he could study it thoroughly without losing his rationality, it would be perfect. It was a pity that he didn't gain anything from his research. The next day, they reached a fork in the road. Palace Master Shi. Jun Changshao stopped and cupped his hands. Let's part here. Be careful on the road. Yes. Shi Jingxian nodded, but when she was about to leave, she turned around and said, thank you, Jun Patriarch, for your help. I will always remember this kindness. Jun Changshao said, we're friends. Since we're friends, why can't we become allies? Shi Jingxian said with a smile. She had mentioned this idea when the Blue Mountain Sect and the Sect of All Times formed an alliance, but it was later rejected by the elders, who thought that Jun Changshao was too troublesome. But now, Sun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were very supportive. Jun Patriarch said sure. It was normal for a sect to have many allies, so he naturally wouldn't mind. When we return, I will announce it to the public, Shi Jingxian said. Yes. Just like that. The serious matter of forming an alliance was not completed on the solemn negotiation table. Instead, it was settled in the wilderness by the two sect leaders. The efficiency could be said to be shockingly high. Goodbye. Goodbye. Shi Jingxian reluctantly led the two elders back to Miaohua Palace, while Jun Changshao led everyone back to the Sect of All Times. Elder Wei. On the way, Jiangye whispered. Elder Leng left. Why didn't you say anything? Sigh. Elder Wei sighed. After returning from the forest of 1,000 poisons, he had been silent. Obviously, he couldn't accept the death of the girl he once loved. Looking at the slightly haggard elder Wei, Jun Changshao said to himself, so it's better to focus on developing the sect, so as to avoid being troubled and hurt by love in the future. The system complained, you say it as if you can find a woman. Sect of all times. After Jun Changshao returned, he tied up Miao Saifeng and locked her in prison. Zhao Daoda was overjoyed. He didn't expect his new cellmate to be such an outstanding beauty. However, he cried that night, because although this woman was tied up and her meridians were sealed, many terrifying spiders, centipedes, and other poisonous creatures appeared out of nowhere in the prison. He grabbed onto the iron fan window and howled miserably. Sect leader Jun, change my cell, patriarch. Jiang Ye asked, is that woman still locked up? Yes. Jun Changshao said, lock her up first. Ding Xingwang suggested, the art of poison can be comprehended to the extreme. It's hard to guard against. Patriarch can subdue her for his own use. Yes. The Ning brothers agreed. Jun Changshao also had this intention when he brought Miao Saifeng back. But he knew that being tied up by him could lead to her death at any time. Miao Saifeng didn't compromise, which meant that she was a woman with character. It wouldn't be easy to make her submit. Since that was the case, then lock her up first. In order to prevent the number one prisoner from dying, Jun Changshao brought Miao Saifeng out and locked her in a cell alone. Zhao Daoda let out a long sigh of relief. He clutched his chest and said, I'd rather be with the Demon King than with a venomous woman. A few days later, Miaohua Palace announced to the public that they had formed an alliance with the Sect of all times. If it were in the past, people would definitely think that Jun Changshao was riding on the coattails of a fourth-rate sect. But now, they felt that it was an honor to form an alliance with the Sect of all times. The alliance didn't cause much of a stir, because many big shots speculated that the Sect of all times patriarch and the palace master of Miaohua Palace had an unspeakable relationship. Now that they had formed an alliance, it was as good as confirmed. Don't mess with Miaohua Palace in the future. Listen up. If you meet any disciples of Miaohua Palace, when you go down the mountain, be careful. Don't mess with them. Many higher-ups of fourth-rate and fifth-rate sects were warning their disciples. Clearly, the prestige of the Sect of all times had made many forces wary. How's the setup of the intelligence network? On this day, Jun Changshao came to the Drizzle Hall to ask about the situation. Li Luoqiu took out a map of the Falling Star continent and pointed at a few prefectures. At least 5 prefectures have been deployed. The southeastern prefectures are still expanding and will cover the entire region in about a month. Good progress. The patriarch is still the one with the money. It was definitely unrealistic to rely on disciples to act as intelligence agents. Many intelligence agents were recruited by rogue cultivators. To put it simply, the Drizzle Hall's intelligence network covered a few major prefectures. Disciples were the minority. Most of the information was gathered by rogue cultivators, and they were paid accordingly. Those who performed well during this period would be recommended by the branch master to become a member of the Sect of all times. The Sect of all times currently had 2 ways to recruit disciples. The first was through the Mountain Gate examination to obtain excellent youths. The second was through the branch master to send them over. A virtuous cycle of recruitment had been formed and was in full operation. Therefore, Jun Patriarch didn't need to think about how to recruit disciples. Li Qingyang was fully in charge of alchemy resources. He would refine whatever was lacking. It was definitely very stable. Comfortable. Lying on the chair in the study, Jun Changshao closed his eyes and took a nap. Although there were still many things that couldn't be done without him, the sect was gradually formalizing and operating in a virtuous manner. There were fewer and fewer things to worry about. A hands-off boss. Really, the day was just around the corner. All right. Jun Changshao opened his eyes and said, set up the dimensional battlefield teleportation gate first. Chapter 839. Jun Changshao came to the back mountain and set up the portal. Now, there was another vortex-shaped entrance, forming a triangle with the life and death secret realm and the space and time secret realm. The back mountain had all kinds of facilities. There was a spirit-gathering array that could absorb spiritual energy faster. An experienced tower with comprehensive development of morality, intelligence, physique and beauty, as well as a life and death secret realm. Now there was a portal. Patriarch. Li Qingyang walked over and asked, "What is this?" He had just returned from the experienced tower, and there were still beads of sweat on his forehead. Jun Changshao thought about it and said, "Let's call it a battlefield secret realm. It can improve martial arts?" Li Qingyang's eyes lit up. As long as a new secret realm appeared, it would definitely be of great help to cultivation. It's used for training, and you can get a lot of resources. Can I go in? No. Jun Changshao refused. The battlefield secret realm was different from the life and death secret realm. You could revive after death, so it had to be personally inspected and confirm the danger level inside. Okay, Li Qingyang said. I'll go and do my work. Go. After he left, Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, "Should I go in and take a look?" The system said, "Since I bought it, I must go and take a look." There are many experts in the battlefield secret realm. What if I can't win? Although Jun Changshao liked to seek death in fancy ways, everything was built on the condition that he had a trump card. However, he had no idea what kind of place the battlefield secret realm was, so he had no idea. Hesitation is not in the host's character, the system said. Besides, with all kinds of equipment and unsheathed blades, what is there to be afraid of? You want me to be defeated in the battlefield secret realm. This will stimulate consumption. You know me well, host. Damn. Jun Changshao broke down. When did you become so shameless? I learned it from the host. After giving it some serious thought, Jun Changshao decided to walk towards the teleportation gate. He had obtained a full set of equipment from the Fatality Tower, and his strength was at the pinnacle of the sword and warrior emperors. He also had irretrievable blade and mechanical armament wings, so he was not afraid of any trouble. Most importantly, he was eager to know whether the item he bought with 50,000 contribution points was a loss or a profit. As soon as he entered the vortex of flowing light, a voice sounded in his ears. Detected that the intruder has reached the level of an emperor. You have fulfilled the minimum requirement to enter the teleportation device. Loading 10%. Loading 20%. Damn. There was a cultivation level restriction for entering the planar battlefield. The lowest cultivation level was the Emperor Realm. This meant that the experts on the battlefield were all Emperor-level experts. In fact, they might even be higher than that. 30% increase. No way. I'll go in after I complete the epic quest and break through to the half-saint realm. Jun Gosheng felt weak. Load 100% teleport. Just as he was about to exit, he disappeared into thin air with a whoosh, and a roar could be heard. Jumping from 30% to 100%. Are you kidding me? Zhengzuan state. Inside the ancient altar, several white-robed old men sat cross-legged in front of the Earth Spirit instrument. Suddenly, the Earth Spirit instrument trembled slightly, and a voice sounded. The upper realm has decided that the falling star continent must send martial artists to the planar battlefield in 5 years. What? The leading old man suddenly opened his eyes and said in shock. Sir, this? The upper realm has decided. You only need to obey. Yes. Whoosh, the Earth Spirit instrument stopped vibrating, and everything returned to normal. However, the 5 white-robed old men frowned, and their eyes were filled with sorrow. The leader said in pain, in the end, we still can't avoid it. Our falling star continent is just the most inconspicuous plane in the universe. Why is it chosen to participate in the planar battlefield? If it was the ancient times, we might have the ability to participate in the war. However, now that the spirit chi has withered, our strength is much weaker than before. Sending powerhouses in is undoubtedly equivalent to sending them to their deaths. The white-robed old men were very unhappy, but they could only complain because they could only obey the upper realm's orders. The leading old man shook his head and said, inform the continent of this matter, and let the emperor-level powerhouses actively prepare for war in the next 5 years. Yes. After everyone left, the leader sighed with his hands clasped behind his back. The minimum requirement to enter the dimensional battlefield is to send 2,000 martial emperors. Although we have them in the falling star continent, if all of them die there, we will pay a heavy price. Our overall strength will only decline. The martial artists on the continent did not know about the planar battlefield, but the leaders of the relevant departments knew better than anyone else. Although there were all kinds of resources and opportunities there, it was also hell. Sigh. He sighed and said, "We can only resign ourselves to fate." Jun Changxiao felt dizzy, but when he gradually recovered, he found that he was standing on a crimson land. He looked up at the starry sky and said, "Is this the planar battlefield?" At that moment, he felt as if he was in outer space, and he could see the stars and nebulae in the distance. Huff huff, suddenly, a murderous aura spread, and Jun Changxiao could not help but shiver. He had felt this aura before. However, he had never seen such a strong one. Therefore, he instantly determined that many people must have died in the area he was in. Otherwise, it would be impossible for such a terrifying aura to form. Congratulations to the planar battlefield. Because the falling star continent has never participated in the planar battlefield, you are now in the circle of the falling star continent's territory. A feminine voice sounded in his ear. Damn, Jun Changxiao said. It's changed. The system said. The voice is not from the system of the strongest sect. It is from the teleportation gate of the planar battlefield. I see. Jun Chang smiled and said. It's pretty high-tech. Circle? Territory? He hurriedly looked down and found himself in a circle with a radius of about 2 to 3 meters. There was a teleportation gate next to him, and there was a flag with the words Falling Star Continent written on it. No way. Jun Patriarch broke down and said, "This territory is too small." The feminine voice sounded. This is the first time the plane you represent is entering the planar battlefield. It is normal for the territory to be small. If you want to expand it, you will have to fight inside. For every victory or kill of an enemy, the territory will expand by 1 meter. 1 meter? Jun Changxia's mouth twitched. How many people do I have to defeat to reach the size of a village or a town? The sweet feminine voice sounded in his ear. The value of a territory is that the powerhouses of other planes cannot attack and occupy it. Therefore, dear participant, if you want to provide a safer and larger territory for the falling star continent martial artists who enter in the future, please fight to your heart's content. Wax. What the hell? Jun Changxiao stepped out of the safe zone. A voice sounded in his ear. Participant will lose all protection after leaving the territory. Please be careful. Do not die. Jun Changxiao swore. If this feminine system had a physical body, no matter how beautiful it was, it would definitely punch it. Chapter 840. There were many planes in the dimensional battlefield, and each plane had its own independent territory. If one wanted to expand, they had to keep killing. Jun Changxiao, who came here through the portal, successfully activated the falling star continent's territory, but it was only a few meters away. In fact, it was related to the number of people. If more people came in, the initial territory would be larger. Sigh. Jun Changxiao said. Since I'm here, I'll take it easy. He didn't come here to fight, and he didn't care about the territory. It was enough as long as he could smoothly go to other planes. No. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao thought of something and broke down. No one can enter the falling star continent's territory, and no one can enter the other planes' territories. How can I go to their world? From the battlefield settings, every plane's territory was a safe zone. There was no hope of sneaking into other people's territories or worlds. System, get out here. There was no reply. Obviously, it had entered a state of feigning death. Fuck. Jun Changxiao hugged his head and broke down. I feel like I've lost a lot. Suddenly, a deep voice came from the sky. A martial artist from the falling star continent has entered the dimensional battlefield and is one of the participants. This announcement is hereby made. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Saying it so loudly, was it afraid that others wouldn't know that someone from the falling star continent had come? Huff huff. At this moment, powerful auras erupted. In the starry sky in the distance, Thousands of streams of light flew over at high speed. Among them were humans in strange clothes and half-naked orcs. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened because they were all Wu Huang's level. No. The dozens of martial artists flying at the front were undoubtedly half-saints judging from their strong auras. Jun Changxiao had already guessed that this place must be filled with experts when he heard that there was a cultivation level restriction. However, when he saw with his own eyes that there were as many emperors as dogs and half-saints running around the streets, he sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "The plain battlefield is so terrifying." Wait. Jun Changxiao's expression suddenly became interesting, because the thousands of experts were obviously coming for him. New martial artist from the falling star continent die. This brat is mine. Don't you dare snatch him from me. Anyone who kills a martial artist from the falling star continent will be rewarded with several times the merit points. Who's the coward? Hoo. Killing intent erupted, engulfing the earth. Even a Wuxia level expert like City Lord Han wouldn't be able to withstand such a formation. However, Jun Gosheng was smarter. Seeing thousands of people coming at them aggressively, they hurriedly took a few steps back and shrank into a circle that was only a few meters wide. Swoosh! Whoosh! Many experts arrived in the blink of an eye. They hovered in midair and taunted, "Newcomer, hurry up and show yourself." Seeing that they did not dare to cross the circle, Jun Changxiao folded his arms and said indifferently, "Come in if you have the guts. Come out if you dare. Come in if you dare." "You have guts." 10 minutes later, Jun Changxiao's mouth was parched, and his voice was hoarse. If you have the guts to come in." If there were only a few or dozens of emperor-level experts, he would definitely dare to go out. However, there were thousands of people surrounding him, and he could only rely on the safety zone to argue with them. "Gutless guy," a powerhouse said coldly, "I won't waste my time with you. Let's go." Swoosh! Swoosh! The powerhouse representing him turned around and flew away. The powerhouses from other planes also left one after another. Soon, there were only 20 to 30 people left outside the safety zone of the falling star continent. Obviously, they didn't want to give up and planned to wait. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao summoned a chair, sat on it, crossed his legs and said, "I don't believe that I can't wear you guys out." The system said, "Don't be a coward, go. Go my ass." Jun Changxiao said, "Do you think those people really left?" "Dear participant, because you illegally sneaked into the plain battlefield and did not go through the normal procedures. Although you have established the territory of the falling star continent, you will be expelled after 2 hours in the safety zone. Now the countdown begins." Of course. The feminine voice continued, "Participant, if you stay outside for an hour, the countdown will start again when you enter the safety zone. I wish you good luck and a happy life. Wax. Wax your grandpa." Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Staying inside for 2 hours and wandering outside for an hour. This was forcing him to not stay in the safety zone. He had to either take the initiative to fight or be hunted down. "Don't be a coward." The system said, "Screw them." "Okay." Jun Changxiao stood up, shook his shoulders and said, "When the time is almost up, I'll fight them to the death." The system collapsed. He still had to go out at the right time. When did the host become so cowardly? It wasn't cowardice. It was Rich Express eating chicken. "I say everyone." Jun Changxiao sat steadily on the chair and said, "Which plane are you from?" "Lingyun Continent. Scarlet Sea Continent. Shangxian Continent." The powerhouses who hadn't left all reported their origins. Their noses were almost pointing to the sky. Jun Changxiao said, "What did you mean by merit points?" "Heh." The powerhouses from Lingyun Continent laughed coldly and said, "Since you've come to the dimensional battlefield, how could you not know about merit points?" "This," Jun Changxiao said, "I came in a bit of a hurry, so I don't know a lot of things." Everyone's mouths twitched. They had thought about it for a long time, before finally deciding to come to the dimensional battlefield. There was no such thing as being in a hurry. "Kid," a powerhouse from Scarlet Sea Continent said indifferently, "when your territory expands to a certain size, a merit store will be formed in the upper realm. At that time, You can buy natural treasures and weapons that are not available in this plane. Upper realm? Jun Changxiao was surprised. The feminine voice said, "Dear participant, this place was opened by a powerhouse from the upper realm. Every 5 years, there will be a plane leaving and a new plane joining." Damn, Jun Changxiao broke down and said, "Building a battlefield that focuses on killing, the people of the upper realm are really bad." The feminine voice said, "The races of the major planes are multiplying too quickly. In the long run, the energy will be exhausted, so building a dimensional battlefield is also a last resort. The more people there were, the more resources would be consumed, and in the end, it would be exhausted." Jun Changxiao could understand this point. Using killing to reduce the population was a bit extreme. Or rather, the upper realm was just taking down the lower realm and treating them like ants. It didn't matter how many people died. I thought that the upper realm was an extraordinary holy land, but now it seems that it can't escape the law of the jungle. Jun Changxiao shook his head. Of course. The powerhouse from Scarlet Sea continent smiled coldly and said, "You won't have a chance to expand your territory, because as soon as you step out, you'll become our prey to obtain merit points." Prey. Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together, leaned forward slightly, and rested his chin on it. He slowly narrowed his eyes, and a U-shaped smile appeared. "Are you serious?" Chapter 841. Treating him as prey? Jun Patriarch narrowed his eyes. The smile of a demon king that scared children to tears appeared on his face. Seeing his expression, the powerhouses of the other planes all said disdainfully, "This guy is asking for a beating." Yes, Jun Changxiao was asking for a beating. However, no one on the Falling Star continent dared to beat him up. The powerhouses of the planar battlefield were different. No one took Jun Changxiao seriously. "Kid," the powerhouse from the Red Sea continent cupped his hands and said, "Don't hide in the safe zone. Come out and fight me for 300 rounds. 300 rounds? Jun Changxiao leaned back in his chair and raised a finger. He said calmly, "1 round is enough to deal with trash like you." 1 round? The powerhouse from the Red Sea continent sneered. This little Falling Star continent martial cultivator is quite arrogant. Calm down, Jun Changxiao said. You'll know soon enough. He had been waiting for the 2 hours to end. Once he left this time, he would have to wander outside for an hour. Every moment of safety counted. Actually, Jun Changxiao could enter the teleportation gate and return to the Sect of all times. However, since he was here, and there were so many powerhouses here, he naturally had to have a good fight. This guy was also a battle-hungry person. However, when he was managing the Sect in the Falling Star continent, unless he encountered a troublesome enemy, the disciples would fight. Today on the battlefield, he could finally fight to his heart's content. "Kid," the powerhouse from the Red Sea continent shouted. "Hurry up and come out and finish me in 1 round." He was in a hurry. He wanted to take the first blood of the Falling Star continent martial cultivators and earn several times the merit points to exchange for the resources he needed at the merit store. Jun Changxiao ignored him. He secretly observed the 20 martial cultivators outside the safe zone. 10 are comparable to rank 8 Wu Huang, 6 are comparable to rank 9 Wu Huang, 3 are comparable to peak Wu Huang, and 1 is comparable to a half-saint. Why did he use the word comparable? Because every plane had different cultivation systems and different realms. On the Falling Star continent, there were martial masters and Wu Huang. On other planes, there were Qi Si and Void transformation realms. The most valiant, yet also the simplest, was the division between level 1 to level 999. The clamoring Scarlet Sea continent's experts were represented by numbers, and they were experts over level 700. The realms of each plane were different, but they were more or less the same. It's only a half-saint, Jun Changxiao thought to himself. It's not a big problem. Clang! The jade dragon asks the heaven's sword appeared and stabbed into the ground in front of the chair. I advise everyone to leave quickly, or else you will become a soul under this sword. He spread his legs and placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. At that moment, Jun Patriarch was like a king who was about to conquer the world. However, the powerhouses of the various existential planes did not care. They stared at the Jade Dragon asks the Heaven's Sword with shining eyes. Clearly, they had taken a liking to it and planned to take it for themselves. In the planar battlefield where life and death were decided by fate and riches and honor, or decided by the heavens, there was only one rule. Either you die or I die. The dead martial artist's equipment and resources would naturally become the victors. Seeing that they were all looking at his swords, Jun Changshao knew that they would not leave. Fine. He shook his head and said, just wait for your death. TSK. Everyone was disdainful. They were all veterans who had been in the planar battlefield for a long time, so they naturally wouldn't put this guy in their hearts. However, there was one thing that was very puzzling. It would take another 5 years for a new plane to enter the planar battlefield. Why did the Falling Star Continent's martial artist come in early, and by himself? Sigh. The arrangements of the upper realm were unpredictable. At this moment, the upper realm was very helpless, because this guy was smuggled in, and was not within the rules at all. Time passed by minute. The 20 martial artists gathered outside the safe zone of the Falling Star Continent had no intention of leaving. The system's feminine voice rang out. Dear participant, you will be evicted in 1 minute. Please be prepared to be forcibly evicted. Love you. Jun Changshao had always felt that complaining about his system was very annoying, but compared to this feminine system, it was simply heaven and earth. There is no harm without comparison, the system said. Now you know how good I am. Shua. Jun Changshao stood up. A stream of light flashed behind him, and the mechanical wings appeared. He held the Jade Dragon asks the Heaven's Sword with one hand and said sinisterly, the slaughter begins. Whoosh whoosh. Flames erupted, and the momentum was like a rainbow. The Scarlet Sea Continent expert was surprised. It's even a fire element martial artist. Whoosh at this moment, Jun Changshao burst out, and an incomparably cold sword light suddenly flashed in the monstrous flames. Not good. The Scarlet Sea Continent expert's eyes were filled with shock. He wanted to dodge, but just as the thought rose in his mind, he saw the sword light flash past his side, and his entire body was stunned in midair. Jun Changshao came in front of him and looked down like a king. A trash like you can be dealt with in half a move. Powerful awesome. Pucci. Blood spurted from that person's neck, and his head flew off. From his wide-open eyes, it was obvious that he did not expect that he would be killed so easily by his prey. Plop. His body fell to the ground, sending up waves of dust. Congratulations to the participant for obtaining the first blood of the Scarlet Sea Continent, obtaining 100 merit points. A feminine prompt sounded in his ear. So this was the first blood? Jun Changshao's lips curled up slightly, and the Demon King's smile appeared again. Then, he looked at the martial artists from the other planes and said with a cold gaze, all of you are my prey today. Everyone suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. A level 700 expert from the Scarlet Sea Continent was killed by him in one move. This guy was quite strong. Everyone. An expert shouted coldly. Everyone attack together. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. More than 10 experts from different planes condensed different kinds of energy and charged over. In an instant, this area emitted an even stronger murderous aura, and the scarlet ground became even more enchanting. Die. Jun Changshao's black hair danced wildly, and his long and narrow eyes were filled with killing intent. Holding Jade Dragon asks the heavens, he charged over fearlessly. Whoosh whoosh. Flames erupted and sword aura rampaged. At this time, if gang leader Qiao's background music was borrowed, it would definitely ignite adrenaline instantly. Swish. Pucci, the expert from the Lingyun continent, didn't dodge at all, and was mercilessly beheaded. Even his companion next to him was killed. Congratulations to the participant for taking down the first blood of the Lingyun continent. 100 merit points awarded. Congratulations to the participant for 10 merit points. It wasn't hard to tell from the notification that the first person to kill a plane would be rewarded 100 points, and the second person would only be rewarded 10 points. Black sky, scorching sun. Tornado clouds. Whoosh whoosh on the other side. Several experts from different planes displayed their own martial arts techniques, and dazzling energies wantonly appeared. This was a plain battlefield. Even if the power was extremely strong, it only caused the momentum and didn't shake the space. Otherwise, it would have been torn apart by the shockwaves. Boom! Boom! Dozens of different powers bombarded, creating a huge explosion. However, in the area filled with power, Jun Changshao rushed out wearing the 9 phosphor body armor, shocking everyone. This guy's defensive equipment was so strong. Everyone attacked together, but it didn't hurt him at all. Swish! Jun Changshao flew over, and with a wave of his wrist, he immediately used the Lingjian divine art. Sword light burst out like a storm of pear blossoms. Not good. Dodge quickly. The experts from different planes were aghast. Unfortunately, under the extreme speed of the sword, the targeted expert didn't even have the chance to turn around before he was torn into pieces in an instant. Swish! Swish! Sword light filled the sky, illuminating the entire Crimson Land. Whoosh whoosh poochie! Poochie! In a short few minutes, Jun Changshao held the bloodstained jade dragon asks the heaven's sword in the air, like an undefeatable god of war from the legends. On the Crimson Land, 19 corpses and limbs were scattered all around, and not a single one was left alive. Chapter 842. In the cruel planar battlefield, it was either you die or I live. Therefore, Jun Changshao didn't show any mercy when he attacked. If he could kill with one move, he wouldn't use a second move. Just like that. In just a few minutes, all 19 planar powerhouses were dead. It was a pity that no one from the falling star continent witnessed it. Otherwise, they would be deeply shocked. After all, the weakest of those killed by Jun Changshao was comparable to rank 8 Wu Huang. If it was a large sect, the death of so many mainstays would be a devastating blow. It might even be impossible for them to recover. Of course, if it was the falling star continent, Jun Changshao might not have the chance to kill so many. The emperors there cherished their lives very much. Moreover, with the current strength of the sect of all times, it would be difficult for dozens of emperors to fight unless they were in a life-or-death situation with the enemy. The 19 people killed came from 3 planar dimensions. One person got 300 points, 16 people got 160 points, and a total of 460 merit points. Whoosh! Jun Changshao waved his sword and looked at the planar powerhouse who was comparable to half-step Wu Sheng. He said indifferently, "There's one last prey left." More than 10 powerhouses from several planar dimensions had thought of him as prey. In the end, they became the prey. It was a bit tragic. The half-saint powerhouse said indifferently, "No wonder you dared to enter the planar battlefield alone. You have some ability." However, after a pause, he said with a cold gaze, "You still have to die." This powerhouse could have joined forces with others to attack earlier, but after seeing the Red Sea continent cultivators killed, he decided to stand by and watch. Why? Because this falling star continent cultivator was very strong. If he killed many people consecutively, he would slowly accumulate kill points. When the time came, he would kill him and obtain more merit points. Jun Changshao was very strong. This half-saint powerhouse guessed correctly. However, he didn't expect him to be so strong that he could kill 19 people in such a short time. But it didn't matter. Now that the pig was fattened, it was time to butcher it. Boom! Boom! This half-saint powerhouse waved his hands, and the space shook. Fist imprints condensed from top to bottom. Judging from the strength of the fist imprints, it was definitely not something an ordinary half-saint could compare to. Jun Changshao clenched his sword tightly as fighting spirit rose in his eyes. Since he had advanced into the apex of the Emperor realm, he hadn't fought seriously against a half-step sage. Now that he was in the plain battlefield, where the spatial barrier was firm, he could finally get what he wanted. Burn! My chakra, my little universe, my Haoshiku, my Hello Kitty. Sword chi traversed 30,000 miles, and a single sword illuminated 19 continents. Jun Changshao's long hair fluttered in the wind. The jade dragon asks the heavens shrouded in scorching flames suddenly slashed out. instantly forming an unparalleled sword chi. In the distant battlefield, the experts of the various planes all saw a dazzling light appear in the sky. It was extremely eye-catching. Sword chi? Although it's very far away, it feels very strong. Could it be that sword Dao expert? Let's go and take a look. All the cultivators rushed to the scene as fast as they could. As far as they were concerned, it was definitely an expert in the sword Dao that was capable of erupting with such a dazzling sword move. Boom! 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 The dazzling sword chi carried the power of an explosion and obliterated the fist imprints one by one. Seeing that his move was destroyed by a single sword move, the half-step sage's calm expression was replaced by a serious one. He thought to himself, this kid's strength is not inferior to mine. Swish, swish, swish. Jun Changshao rushed over with his sword and used the one-word speed technique again. The battle intent in his eyes was unprecedentedly strong. When the half-step sage met his gaze, he immediately felt a little guilty, so he hurriedly used his movement technique to escape. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not it was real. Jun Changxiao's sword move had already made a half-step sage wary. As the Emperor of Swords, coupled with the Jade Dragon asks the Heaven's Sword, his current combat strength was definitely stronger than when he was wielding the Green Dragon Crescent Blade. Although he often played with blades, however, his sword Dao was the strongest. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless sword chi burst out like a whirlwind. Unfortunately, the half-step sage had no intention of fighting and retreated, so he didn't hit. Trying to run? With the mechanical armed wings and the power of flight, Jun Changxiao turned into a stream of light and chased after him. In the blink of an eye, he had caught up. What a fast speed! The half-step sage exclaimed. Die! Jun Changxiao shouted coldly, and suddenly raised the Jade Dragon asks the Heaven's Sword. His wrist suddenly shone, and was covered by pieces of steel. Mechanical armed wings, battle mode activated. Whoosh whoosh, the explosive sword chi slashed out. Not only did it reveal an extremely cold aura, but it also revealed a heavy power. At that moment, the whole world seemed to have lost its color, leaving only the scorching sword light that would be remembered by the world for a lifetime. No! The half-step sage felt a sense of crisis and screamed in horror. But just as he opened his mouth, his whole body was split into two by the terrifying sword chi. Poochie! The sword chi tore through the air, and the split corpse fell to the ground with a loud bang, adding another crimson blood stain to the ground. Congratulations to the participant for taking down the first blood of the Fengyin continent. 100 merit points awarded. Congratulations to the participant for killing a black expert. 20 merit points awarded. Black expert? The feminine voice prompted. The realms of each plane are different, so in order to differentiate strength, participants in the dimensional battlefield are divided into heaven, earth, black, and yellow levels. Dear participant, the expert you just killed is a transformation void realm expert in the Fengyin continent, but in the dimensional battlefield, it is classified as black level. I see. Jun Changxiao said. What level am I? In terms of realms, you should be classified as yellow level. So killing a higher level will give you 10 more merit points than killing someone of the same level. The feminine voice sounded. System. It felt a sense of crisis and panicked. Jun Changxiao said. I'm the lowest? But from the battle just now, your true strength should be between earth and black level. The feminine voice sounded. That's more like it. Jun Changxiao smiled with satisfaction. However, the half-step sage was only at black level, which meant that there were still heaven and earth level experts in the dimensional battlefield. Their strength was definitely comparable to Wu Sheng, or even higher. If he encountered them, wouldn't it be very troublesome? As expected, in a battlefield where the minimum requirement was emperor level, there were as many experts as there were clouds. Jun Changxiao covered his face and laughed strangely. This place is very exciting, very suitable for me. He, who was using cheats, had a feeling of being invincible in the falling star continent. In the dimensional battlefield, emperors were everywhere, half-step sages were as common as dogs, and there was also Wu Sheng or even higher. The situation was different. especially when he thought of being able to fight with them. Jun Changxiao's blood instantly burned. After killing 20 half-step sages, he obtained 580 merit points. The territory of the falling star continent below also expanded from the initial 2 to 3 meters to more than 20 meters. Jun Changxiao broke down. To expand to the size of a village, how many do I have to kill? The feminine voice sounded. Dear participant, the number of people in the territory determines the speed of expansion. The fewer people there are, the slower the expansion. Shwa, shwa. At this moment, streaks of light flew over. Among them, there were experts who pretended to leave, and there were also experts who were disturbed by the sword energy. There were at least 6,000 to 7,000 of them. Humph. Jun Changxiao stood proudly, holding his sword with one hand. Killing 19 emperors and one half-step sage was just a warm-up. What came next was the real battle. Combat armor wings, and the ability to fly burst out at the same time. And this guy actually ran away as fast as he could. Don't be a coward, the system said. Jun Changxiao roared. My head was kicked by a donkey, otherwise I would fight with thousands of emperors. Chapter 843. Jun Changxiao was very strong, but he did not think that he could fight against thousands of emperors alone. Thus, he could only escape and return to the safe zone when the time was up. Whoosh! With the combination of the mechanical armed wings and the ability to fly, he was very fast. In just a short while, he had left all the powerhouses behind him in the dust. Jun Changxiao was quite confident in escaping. Unless Wu Sheng used space travel, no one would be able to catch up to him. Suddenly, he realized that his arms and body were emitting a red glow that extended into the sky. He was puzzled. What the hell is this? Martial artists from the Falling Star continent have killed 19 yellow-level experts and 1 mystic-level expert. They have gone berserk from killing. A Class 3 arrest warrant has been issued, and the reward is 500 merit points. A heavy voice came from the sky. A level 3 bounty order? This is a big fat sheep. All the powerhouses scattered across the battlefield heard the voice, and their eyes lit up. Apart from taking the first blood of a martial artist and killing a powerhouse stronger than oneself, everyone else would be rewarded with 10 merit points and 500 merit points. This was definitely a fatal temptation. Red light. All the martial artists within 100 miles of Jun Changxiao saw the red light and immediately rushed over like hungry wolves. Dear participant, the feminine system said, you are now a level 3 bounty order. The red light you emit will expose your location at all times. Please be sure to hide well. Wax. Jun Changxiao's expression collapsed. At this moment, the red light was still rising. Anyone within 200 to 300 miles would definitely be able to see it clearly. Only 20 people. Jun Changxiao roared. I became a bounty order just because I'm in a killing frenzy? The system gloated. Host, you pinched the wrong time. It definitely pinched the wrong time. If he knew that killing people would make him a bounty order and expose his location, Jun Changxiao would definitely not hide in the stronghold for 2 hours. He would quickly go out and kill, then retreat back. If there was no other way, he would use the teleportation gate to return to the Sect of all times. But now, he could not go back even if he wanted to. The system continued to gloat. Easy mode was forcefully turned into hell mode by the host. Ha ha ha. It's fine, it's fine. Jun Changxiao calmed down and said, I have the mechanical armament wings, and it's powered by 2 cores. My speed is even faster. Escaping for an hour is not a problem. Who? At this moment, he released his spiritual senses and captured countless experts chasing after him from 3 other directions. Therefore, he could only escape as fast as he could. The system said sarcastically, this place is indeed very exciting. It's very suitable for the host to escape. Jun Changxiao didn't pay any attention to him and focused on escaping. Chase. Don't let him escape. 500 merit points. I must get it. Tens of thousands of martial artists from all four directions chased after him with burning eyes. They couldn't wait to chop this third-grade fugitive into pieces and earn merit points. Why aren't they fighting? Why are they chasing after me? Jun Changxiao roared in his heart. The planar battlefield was supposed to be a place where all the major planes would fight and kill each other. But now they were collectively targeting him. Who the hell had he offended? Dear participant, because your life is worth 500 merit points, 50 times more than 10 merit points, the female voice said. Jun Changxiao ran at full speed and entered into a frenzied escape mode. At this moment, his blood was no longer boiling. There was only one thought in his mind: I want to go home. I want to go back to the sect of all times. Falling Star Continent. A few martial saints, including City Lord Han, who rarely appeared, landed on the ancient altar. They all frowned, looking as if they had a lot on their minds. High Priest. One of the experts was silent for a while and said, "Can't we reject it?" Sigh. The white-robed elder shook his head and said, "The will of the upper realm can only be obeyed. The planar battlefield has always been participated in by the higher-level planes. The overall strength of our falling star continent is relatively weak. Going in is no different from suicide," one of the Wuxia said with a frown. These experts, who were second only to the martial emperor, had some understanding of the planar battlefield. That was why they were frowning. The high priest sighed and said, "Even if it's suicide, we have to send 2,000 Wu Huang in. Only by expanding the territory of our falling star continent, to a certain extent, will we have the right to leave." Expand the territory? City Lord Han smiled bitterly and said, "In my opinion, we won't be able to expand the territory. We'll be wiped out." Sigh. Several Wuxing sighed. The falling star continent was just one of the most inconspicuous planes in the universe. There were countless higher-level planes. Participating in the planar battlefield 5 years later was equivalent to sending Wu Huang to their deaths. If they only sent a few dozen people, it would not be a problem. However, they had to send 2,000 people. If all of them died, it would be a heavy blow to the already declining continent. "Everyone," the high priest said, 5 years later, "you should also go to the planar battlefield. Perhaps you can use your strength to expand the territory and reduce the losses to the minimum. That's the only way." Several Wusheng's eyes were filled with determination. They were strong, but they also knew that the experts from the higher-level planes were stronger than them. Since they were appointed by the upper realm, they could only bite the bullet and participate. Planar battlefield? In the heavenly mandate imperial city, Mu Changheng frowned. Yi Tianxing, who was sitting at the head of the table, said, "I heard that this is a battlefield created by the upper realm to solve the problem of overcrowding. Once you enter, you must kill and expand the territory." Situ Haoyan shook his head and said, "The planar battlefield is a place more terrifying than hell. Sending people from the falling star continent is equivalent to sending them to their deaths." "Yes," Yi Tianxing said. "The great war of the ancient emperors caused the world to fall apart. Our vitality was greatly damaged. If we go to the planar battlefield, our core strength will be severely damaged. Our overall strength will only decline further." Mu Changheng realized the seriousness of the matter. He picked up the letter on the table and said resolutely, "For the continent we have to go." The altar not only had to send 2,000 Wu Huang, but also half-saints and Wu Sheng. Even if they were weak, they could not give up. They had to fight for a glimmer of hope. They were obviously sending themselves to their deaths. Why did they have to send so many experts? Because according to the rules of the planar battlefield, if one side was passive or only sent Wu Huang, they would be punished. To put it bluntly, going to the planar battlefield from a designated plane was the same as going to their deaths, risking their lives. Of course, if they managed to survive the stipulated time or expand their territory to a large extent, they would also be rewarded handsomely. As far as the experts of the falling star continent were concerned, they did not expect to be rewarded. They only hoped to survive the cruel battlefield and minimize their losses. Then they would be thankful. While the top experts of the falling star continent were worried, Jun Changxiao, who had sneaked into the planar battlefield through the portal, was running wildly with his mouth open and his tongue hanging out, forcing him to this extent. Yes, there were thousands of experts chasing after him. Just think about it. A dense mass of emperors and even half-step saints were chasing after him. How shocking would that scene be? Go Sheng was able to achieve what he had today, thanks to the heavens and the earth. The system was still gloating. Hurry up and burn your chakra, burn your little universe, and burn your Haoshiku. Chapter 844. Although Jun Changshao was in a very difficult situation, it was still a bit difficult to chase him down with the armed wings and the ability to fly. However, the red light broke through the sky, exposing his position at all times. More and more experts were surging over from all directions. It was truly a place where danger lurked everywhere. In fact, Jun Changshao could use the hard blade, but the effect of this thing had not been tested yet. As for whether it was fierce or not, if he fell into a serious weakened state, he would definitely die in the danger zone. Where do you think you're going? Oh. While thinking, energy suddenly erupted from the right side, and dense fist and palm prints pressed down. Get out of here. Jun Changshao slashed out with his sword, instantly breaking the incoming attack and killing the few martial emperors who were blocking his way on the spot. This scene of being surrounded appeared several times in just 10 minutes. He killed a lot of people in succession. Although his merit points increased, his body became redder. Sect Master Jun was the emperor's favorite right now. Moreover, he was the kind of person whose radiance could pierce through the heavens and earth. It was easy for others to spot him. Swish, swish, more and more experts charged over. 500 merit points, they would never give up. Seeing more and more strong people joining in to chase him, Jun Changshao roared in his heart. How much longer? The system said. There are still 10 minutes to enter the safe zone. It's about time. Jun Changshao sped up and suddenly turned around in midair, flying toward the falling star continent's stronghold at full speed. He secretly calculated that the time to reach there should be just right. The system said, I don't want to discourage the host, but I have to say something. If they surround the stronghold, what should we do? Fuck. Jun Changshao collapsed. This he did not think of. Damn it. Jun Changshao's body suddenly emitted endless killing intent, and said, if the stronghold is surrounded, I can only kill my way out. Without the help of Wu Sheng, he could escape to the ends of the earth. However, the energy would eventually dry up, and the red light would always expose his position, attracting more strong people. So if he wanted to live, he had to return to the safe zone. The system guessed right. When Jun Changshao flew toward the falling star continent's stronghold at full speed, he saw at least 1,000 strong people floating in midair, surrounding the stronghold. Damn it, he said decisively, fight. Ka ka ka. The mechanical wings combat and defense forms were activated, and the 9 phosphor armor and spirit armor were covered in layers. At this moment, Jun Changshao was in his strongest state. At the peak of Hua Mountain to challenge 2 evil sects' big shots, he had even used the rocket launcher. But that was mainly used to scare people to make them give up their territory and pay tribute. At this moment, to survive in the dimensional battlefield, to survive. Since the safe zone had been sealed off, they had to kill their way out no matter what. Otherwise, if they wandered around the danger zone, they would die sooner or later. The Eternal Sect needed to develop, and he was still single. How could he die in this place? The system said, it's better for the host to die, because it's too difficult to be single. Jun Changshao ignored the system's complaints. His eyes gradually turned red, and his whole body was covered in scorching flames. He was like a fire god that would burn anyone who touched him. That kid is here. I knew he would return to the stronghold. The eyes of the 1,000-strong martial artists guarding the falling star continent were burning. At this moment, they did not care about Jun Changshao, who was covered in flames. Instead, they treated him as the 500 merit points that could fly. Formation. One of the experts from the other plane shouted. Whoosh, whoosh. More than 20 strong people flew out, unsheathing their swords, and immediately set up some kind of sword formation. Die all of you! Jun Changxiao roared angrily, and his right arm, which was in combat form, suddenly swung Jade Dragon asks the heavens, dragging out a dazzling sword aura. This attack was even more powerful than the one that killed the half-saint just now. One could clearly see the slender sword mark left on the thick spatial barrier. Ta! Ta! At this moment, two strong people from the wasteland continent stepped on the ground, and two ancient giant shadows appeared. They immediately raised their hands to meet the sharp sword aura. Boom! Boom! An earth-shaking explosion was heard. When everything calmed down, the two giants had already been destroyed by the sword aura. Thump! 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 The two strong people from the wasteland continent retreated, holding their chests and vomiting blood. Their eyes were filled with shock. They were Xian experts, and the ancient giants were also the strongest defensive Dharma Laksana of the wasteland continent. Now that they had released them together, they could not even withstand one attack from that guy. Jun Changxiao in his strongest state was not a pushover, but a hedgehog full of spikes. 3000 sword manipulation technique. At this moment, the dozens of swordsmen in the formation threw out their swords. In an instant, 3000 sword auras appeared like peacocks spreading their tails. Then, they formed a rain of swords and charged toward Jun Changxiao. Whoosh! Whoosh! The dense sword chi formed the momentum of mountains and tsunamis. Linear speed technique. Whoosh! 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 The dense sword shadows shook out and crazily collided with the rain of swords. In the end, all the swords were sent flying. Swords come! Jun Changxiao shouted. Whoosh! 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 The swords that were sent flying were no longer controlled by the swordsmen. They swirled and gathered above their heads, forming a giant sword. Showing off their swords in front of Jun Changxiao was no different from showing off in front of Guan Yu. The people in the formation were stunned. In the next second, a strong ominous feeling rose. The leader shouted, "Retreat! Die all of you!" Jun Changxiao was furious, and the Jade Dragon asks the heaven's sword suddenly slashed down. The giant sword that gathered above suddenly collapsed like a mountain, and with endless sword momentum, it pressed down fiercely. Boom! 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 The dozens of swordsmen in the formation could not dodge in time, and instantly turned into a rain of blood under the sharp edge of the giant sword. At that moment, an emperor expert was as fragile as an ant. Congratulations to the participant for taking down the first blood of the Imperial Sword mainland. 100 merit points awarded. Congratulations to the participant for killing 21 yellow-class martial artists of the Imperial Sword mainland. 210 merit points awarded. The experts from various planes who were about to attack were so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out when they saw more than 20 experts of the Imperial Sword mainland fall. Roar! At that moment, the clothes of two experts from the barbarian mainland who were sent flying burst open, and strange tattoos appeared on their chests. Immediately, their bodies gradually expanded and evolved into the shape of ferocious beasts that were more than 60 meters tall. Barbarian King Transformation! Someone exclaimed. Kid! The Barbarian King Transformation expert roared, Die! The mountain-like palm carried a violent force and fiercely attacked. Whoosh! The other Barbarian King Transformation expert raised his right arm and attacked from the side, sandwiching Jun Changxiao, who was flying over. Whoosh! The violent force was released crazily, and the entire space was almost distorted. When the experts from various planes saw this, they were all in awe. At that moment, they could judge that after the two Mystique experts entered the Barbarian King Transformation, their strength was probably infinitely close to the earthly level. This level 3 wanted criminal was probably doomed. Kill! Jun Changxiao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He poured power into the Jade Dragon asks the heaven sword, forming a scorching sword aura, and pierced toward the large palm that attacked first. Puchi! The sword aura directly pierced through the palm. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.